Blessed love, my Lord and Empress, give thanks and praise for life and the mighty life giver, Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Jah, Rastafari. This is the Bobo Shanti International Study Group. I'm the host, Honorable Prophet Daniel, and pardon my Lord. Yes, I. So give thanks, for everyone's presence here with us. Oh, we lost the priest. I'm gonna give Jaduggy one moment. His connection, I think, dropped. So I'm gonna allow him to come back into the meeting, and then we'll go through with the prayer. Today's topic is restorative justice, also known as reparation. But really, the reparations is just one way to call it. My Lord, Priest Dougie.
Yes, my Lord.
Honorable, can you say a prayer for us, please?
Yes, give thanks. Yes, Almighty Father, we give thanks for another, strong week starting. We give thanks for health and strength. We give thanks for our loved ones in the name of Christ, our Father, Most High, Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Rastafari. We ask the Father to come among us, to fill us with His energy, with His Spirit, with wise mind, understanding, and knowledge, that I and I may fulfill His will through His mercy and His grace. Most High, Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Jah,
Rastafari.
My Lord and Emperor.
My Lord. Yes, I. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Honorable Empress Maisie to sing for us opening chorus. Majesty.
Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Jah,
Rastafari.
Rastafari. Yes, my Lord, give thanks. Jah shall wipe away all tears from our hands. Jah shall wipe away all tears from our hands. For when we reach Mount Zion, our sorrows will be over. For I say, Jah shall wipe away our tears. Adoni, I say, Jah shall wipe away our tears from our hands. Jah shall wipe away all tears from our hands. For when we reach Mount Zion, our sorrow will be over. I say, Jah shall wipe away all tears. One more time. Johnny, I say, Jah shall wipe away all tears from our eyes. Jah shall wipe away all tears from our eyes. For when we reach Mount Zion, our sorrow will be over. For I say, Jah shall wipe away our tears. Jovia, Jah, Rastafari, my Lord and Empress, give thanks. Blessed love.
Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Yes, family. Give thanks for the royal introduction and prayer and singing. At this time, we'll go into the topic, which is again, restorative justice. And, you know, when we say restorative justice, we're speaking of, you know, what we call reparations. For those of us of African descent, you know, whose foreparents, ancestors were, you know, victims of the most heinous crime, you know, ever committed against humanity, known to date, you know, known to man, which was the Ma'afa, also known as the transatlantic slave trade. But really is a human trafficking, you know, it's not slaves they were trading, it's people, you know, living beings, souls, you know, people who have feelings and families and history and culture and all of these things. When they call it a slave trade, it's like they take away all of that, you know, dignity and the humanness of it. And then it seems like they were just trading cattle or something like that. But really, you know, it left a big stain on human history, and it left a huge gaping wound, you know, an open wound, which is still open today. And so the restorative justice would be the healing of said wound, you know. It is a very big topic. It includes a lot of things, a broad scope. So, you know, today we're going to do our best to unpack the big topic and make it more understandable and clear, you know, because, you know, as a Congress who we stand for equality and justice for all, you know, when we say that, you know, we have to know exactly what it is that we are really standing for, so that we can stand properly and really agitate for the right things and do it in the proper way, you know, because there's a right way to do it and there's a right, you know, way to make it right. So yes, at this time, just allow Honorable Elder, Historian, Leading Priest, Honorable Priest Dougie to, you know, just kind of give us an overview, his perspective of the topic, and even some, you know, if he wants to go into some history regarding how the Congress, you know, define restorative justice and you know, get us a definition to work with, so that, you know, we can use that throughout the program. And you know, that's what we will be basing our discussion on. So give thanks, my Lord. Blessed love.
Yeah, blessed love, family. Blessed love, everyone. Yeah, restorative justice. You know, repairing the breach thereof. You know, and when we're talking about restorative justice as Africans, we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade. You know, the horrors of, you know, a people that were forcefully taken, stolen from off their mother's breast, you know, taken beyond a place them called the Caribbean, you know, carrying I beyond all remembrance of our roots, our foundation, you know, which is what they did. And they were barefaced because they named it as such, the Caribbean. So we were brought to the West, you know, where we lost the knowledge of ourselves. We were beaten to forget. We were renamed, reinvented, reshaped to what we see today, you know, the Jamaican, the Barbadian, the Grenadian, you know, the Black Americans, all these different categories that we have been assigned, you know, versus who we are as Africans, Ethiopian Africans as well, because the continent itself was Ethiopia, not just the little spot in the Horn of Africa. So we are Ethiopian Africans. That's the identity that we are holding strong to, because it predates everything. Ethiopia is the first country or the first continent spoken about in the Bible, in all religious writing. Even the early historians spoke of the golden age of Ethiopia, you know, historians like Homer and Herodotus and all those Greek guys that came to Africa, those early guys that came to study, you know, among our teachers. So today we talk about restorative justice. You know, as a Congress, what are we talking about? Our father said his only development down here is freedom, redemption, and international repatriation with compensation. Restorative justice would be the compensation, which they call today reparations. Now they have turned it around and they have placed repatriation as part of reparations, which we can deal with that because it come under, repairing the breach. As a Congress, our father has been agitating for the return of all Africans in the West who desire to go home. He's been agitating for free passage because we didn't pay to come here. We were forcefully brought here under gunboat diplomacy. So we have the right, that right exists, that we must be returned. Now, within the returning of a mass number of people, a great number of people, there has to be, preparation, in negotiating what those preparations are supposed to be, what is owed to I and I, Africa is saddled right now with some major debts, DEBTS, debts that they claim that we owe them. The different nation states of Africa owe billions and billions of dollars to the IMF, the World Bank, to the colonial powers that invaded and robbed us blind. So because of that debt, every dollar that Africa makes go towards paying those debts. So Africa remains a poverty-ridden continent. That is one of the reasons, because we have very bright people with, whole heap of geniuses on the continent that are creating all kinds of inventions, that fit into today's world. But without the financing to develop them beyond just a prototype, we're stuck, and we end up giving our product to some European person, some European company that goes and now mass produces it, put their stamp on it, and gain all the revenue from it. So we're talking about debt relief for those nation states. So those nation states have a chance now to progress, to put the revenue that they are creating into the development of those states, into the infrastructure. Now, as well, part of what we are agitating for is infrastructure development, because Africa lost its whole potential of development because brain drain, one, and being kept in economic depression, two. Three, being raped, when I say raped, Africa has been plundered for all its natural resources, Even where there are treaties signed, we are getting pennies on a dollar for our natural resources, which are taken to different places, manufactured into finished product, and sold back to us now in the continent at lunar dollars, at high inflated rates. So we are calling as well for infrastructure development, for access to education, that means for scholarships to be granted to the different nation states, where students, bright students, can now go and, achieve higher education, because that fund is there to help them through that period of time when they are studying. So X amount of scholarships for each country, and to be able to study in their own country too. That means we want the infrastructure, the colleges, the universities to be developed on the continent at the same level and standard as anywhere else, or higher, if possible. Seeing, so our students that are learning will be accredited on the same level as anyone in the US or London or wherever. We are accredited same way when we pass our courses and we get our degrees. Our degrees will be respected in the world of degrees like everybody else. So we want it on first world standard. See, so these are some of the demands that the Congress has been making, to world governments, to the United Nations and other entities that deal with, thrift and other nations that are also culpable in the slave trade. They have benefited some way from it. So they are culpable in the reparations lawsuit. So that's the overview. you know, we can start from there and build, you know, give thanks to the moment, my Lord and Empress.
Yes, my Lord, give thanks, Honorable, for the historical context and, bringing it even up to speed, up to date.
Just 1 second. I missed one of the key points I need to start off with. We must get the nations, especially those members of the United Nations, to accept the language that slavery is a crime against humanity. They have refused to accept that language in, the conferences that have been held to deal with, the issue. And until they accept that language, that fact that slavery is a crime against humanity, then we are at a stalemate, because that is a deal breaker right there. Because that is what establishes the premise on which we can agitate and demand our restitution. That's the legal premise on which we stand. So with them walking out of the Durban conference and refusing to accept that language, they are refusing their responsibility. They are refusing the fact that they did what they did. And before reconciliation and atonement can take place, acceptance of the injustice has to take place. So for them to accept the injustice is to accept the language that has been coined by the African world, and not just African world, the united world, that says that anyone that enslaves another person, it is wrong. It's a crime. It's criminal. It's against the law. So until they accept that language, family, we're at a stalemate. Yeah, give thanks.
Yes, my Lord. So, give thanks again, my Lord. And I would ask, if anyone else has anything they would like to add in defining what is repertory justice. Before we go forward, I'll give, ones of freedom to speak and, even define, freedom, redemption, and repatriation with compensation. That's how Bobo Shanti call it, but it's the same repertory justice. Those are the things that the way King Emmanuel said it, but it really is just to fix things, fix it for us to make it right, for the Europeans to atone for, but it's not just the Europeans too, there's also the Arabs who also participate. They had their own slave trade, which still continues to this day. But, freedom, what is freedom? What is redemption? What is repatriation? I would say freedom, is being able to determine where you want to be, to move about the earth free, without having to it's not to say I'm necessarily against passports and stuff like that. I understand their purpose, but to not be able to leave a place and to not have a status that gives you freedom to move about countries like how other people do, that would make you unfree, for Black people, it's harder to get passport, and depending on what country you come from, it's going to be harder to get passport or, ability to move around and stuff like that, just because of your skin color and just because you're African. So that type of stuff would have to get removed. Pardon me. But yeah, so to be able to determine your nationality, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, basically all of those rights should be granted to you if you're considered a free person. And they're inalienable rights too, so nobody can take them away from you. They can't be sold or anything like that. To be able to be in your own country, to have your homeland free to you is definitely a part of freedom. Like Europeans, Chinese, Indians, all these other different types of people, they have a connection with their homeland, and they can go there freely and move about freely, whereas the African is more inhibited, especially in international travel. Pardon. Let's keep the microphones muted if we have background noise, please. And yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that definition. I'm kind of just giving them off the top of my head still, but it's a discussion. It's not just me to speak or anybody for that matter. So feel free, give what your understanding of the definition of justice. I would say redemption would be to bring something back to what it used to be. So the African used to be dignified, used to have all of these freedoms and things like that, used to have control of their own land. So to redeem us to that would be to give us that same status again. Repatriation, as we know, is the bringing back of something or someone or ones to their place of origin. Africa for the Africans, China for the Chinese, and even international repatriation really would call for all people to return to their own vine and fig tree, which is their homeland, where their nationality, their ethnicity comes from. Which, that will be the only way there's going to be world peace is if there's national repatriation. So, and compensation, is to pay back. You get something to compensate for would be to pay for it. So Europeans got labor out of our ancestors, and a lot of labor at that. Not easy labor, but hard, labor in the sun, in the fields, with a lot of burden from sun up to even beyond sun up to sundown. And they didn't have to pay anything. They got free processing of goods, which gave them, a high advantage in this new world and industrialization and all of these things. So they benefited greatly beyond just the market value of the goods, but also in building their control over the world and over the resources of the world. It all sprung off of the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, imperialism, and exploitation of people. So so for them to compensate us would be to, that would be the financial part, but not just financial, but also in industry to really basically help us to get on a level where we would be had Africa not been treated the way it was treated and African people exploited the way we were exploited. So they would have to compensate in whatever way possible, realistically, and not spitefully or vengefully, but just, to make it right. Yeah, so that's my say on it: freedom, redemption, repatriation, and compensation. But as I said, the floor is open to define repertory justice. Empress Cindy has her hand up, so Empress Cindy, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress. I hope everyone today is doing wonderful. I am doing wonderful. And I just wanted to add to what Daniel was asking in regards to the term freedom. There is a Swahili definition for the term freedom or independence, which is called uhuru. And uhuru is often used to describe freedom of a country or to govern self, especially in parts of Africa where Swahili is spoken. In Kenya, uhuru was used frequently in the mid-1900s when Kenya was gaining independence from the United Kingdom. So this is another word to add to our list of what it means to be free in an African language, which is Swahili. And I love the term Uhuru, you know, and we also know that the former president of Kenya is, his last name is Uhuru as well. So give thanks for the time, my Lord and Empress.
Yes, I give thanks to Cindy for the cultural, you know, aspect of it. Definitely, you know, the African definition of terms is good for us to know. So give thanks
Definitely.
for sharing.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Honorable Prophet Joseph had his hand up, and then well, Priest Dougie, if you had something you wanted to add to what she said, and then I'll call on Prophet Joseph.
No, let Joseph, Brother Joseph, but you, when I get a chance, I'd like to read one and two of these articles from the Human Rights Charter.
Okay, Mother.
My Lord, yes, my Lord, give thanks, my Lord and Empress, for this topic, reparations, reparatory justice. I see this is a natural process we must go through to uplift the Black nation to the fundamental freedoms that our ancestors were. You know, so as Daniel was saying, it is redeeming ourselves to the state that we are supposed to be. I mean, it is the transatlantic slave trade is a crime that from that time to this time has not been paid back, has not been restored, as there is impunity in I mean the white world. They want to come like they didn't do nothing, or they don't have to pay anything because of their mechanisms of laws and nation building. And I know it is, I mean, through study, we can see which was the state that our ancestors were living in and how that living was interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade. So it is, I mean, I see it is a part of it. The important part of reparation is studying the state of African nations before the slave trade, the pre-colonial African nations, and what was the process of development that these nations were carrying on, and how it was interrupted by the Europeans. So we can come back to that state of growing and evolving. So it is there is an evolution process that was interrupted by the white world. So repairing the African nation will be, in my perspective, give the mechanisms for our nation to uplift itself to the state it should be if the transatlantic slave trade would not have happened. So I was looking at a document where I can see there is, well, different steps to, or principles to reparations. And the first one is the validation of the humanity of the Black people. Because as you were saying, when our ancestors were taken and brought to the West as slaves, there was a dehumanization process. We were attacked. Our ancestors were attacked not as humans, but as tools. And the church, the Christian church, has a lot to do with it, because they were based in Bible and different things and different concepts to to build that concept that Black people were not humans. So the first step is the validation of I and I humanity, which is a struggle that only Black people faces in the entire world, because it's been only the Black people, the ones that has been tagged as something less than humans, my Lord.
Yes, my Lord. Honorable Priest Dougie, my Lord, you can go through.
Yes, yes, my Lord. Yeah, in following up, in a sense, what the Virgin is saying, yeah, the restoration of our humanity from being 3/5 of a human to a full human is vital in this whole thing. And that's why, again, the language that says slavery of any kind is a crime against humanity, you know, that establishes the fact that we are humans, you know, and that we deserve liberty and the pursuit of happiness, you know, and self-governance, just like anyone else, any other ethnicity in the world. You know, the United Nations Charter, which majority of the world governments have assigned to, or they have signed to, begins like this. Article 1, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. And I would add sisterhood. That's Article 1. Article 2 says, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or other opinions, national or social origins, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. Now, all that is saying is that, you know, we as a free people, a people that have been born free, you know, and equal to every other ethnicity, have the rights and should not be limited by nothing, status, money, you know, education, political affiliation, or you know, opinions. You know, there should be no limitation, you know, especially when it comes to the sovereign state of any country. Everyone has, Article 3 says, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Article 4 says, no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. So I will stop at 4 for right now, you know, because right up to there now, that establishes the premise on which we stand, you know, that all these nations have said this, they have signed to this, you know, but the African nation is the only one that has not been granted, you know, restitution or compensation or reparations for the injustice that has hampered the evolution, as Brother Joseph says, of Africa. See, so we are the only people, you know, as you know, the Germans paid forward for the Holocaust and is still paying, you know, the Japanese paying and have paid for, you know, the Nagasaki, Hiroshima, you know, Hawaii attacks, you know, the Native Americans in the US, they are getting compensation for the injustice of genocide that was perpetrated on them, you know. Everywhere you look around the world, you know, people are getting compensated for what wrongs were done to them. but the African is constantly told to pull up himself by his bootstraps, you know, and forget it. You know, they're saying, it wasn't me, it was my foreparents, my great-great-great-grandfather, and so forth and so on, you know. Well, what we are saying to that is that, you know, all the wealth that you stand on is built on the Africans' blood, sweat, tears, life, you know. Even the European common market, you know, the whole principle of Wall Street trading, their trading system, you know, is built from slavery, was built because of slavery, you know. So everything that they have, you know, achieved, you know, in their industrial age, you know, and in their technological age was funded from the African blood, sweat, and tears, you know, the black gold. The black gold is what funded it, not the gold or the green gold. The black gold is what funded Europe. And it is I skill sets. It was the Moorish ingenuity that built Spain. You understand? It was the Moorish ingenuity that navigated the seven seas with Columbus or Combusus, you know, the guy with them called Christopher Columbus. It was I ingenuity that taught them all them know, you know. So without doubt, what they have done to I, their teachers, you know, is deserving of compensation. See, yeah, give thanks.
Prophet Daniel, you're muted, my lord.
Blessed love, my Lord, give thanks.
Yes.
Yes, reparative justice, you know, as the priest was mentioning, you know, there's compensation financially. And, you know, some people have said, you know, financial compensation in some way, shape, or form. You know, some of them still get it, you know, to this day, even though really none of what they experienced or what their ancestors experienced was on quite the scale of what our ancestors went through. But the reason why, you know, it's hard for Europeans to come to terms with this reality to that they need to pay us for anything is one, because they think that we're going to be vengeful, like how their mind might be, and we would like to see their kingdom fall and all of that, and so we can rise. But it really, to me, is like when to compensate someone for, say, you know, rape your foreparents raping their foreparents and their foremothers. It's like there's no money you can put on that. You know, there's no amount of money that you could pay a people back for certain things that have been done. So the money and the resources and things that have been taken out of Africa, yeah, they need to, you know, financially pay back. But there's also certain types of compensation that, you know, don't have no price tag. It's really like therapy would have to fix, and you know, really reconnection, like a cultural reconnection with who we were, like our traditions, our customs with African people, with the homeland, the continent of Africa. That's all part of our compensation as well. But, you know, when we say compensation, I think we're really speaking about the financial aspect. I just ask that, you know, when people agitate for reparations, that we always consider that it's not just a paycheck we're looking for, you know, because a lot of the damage that we still have to this very day, like poverty creates a whole set of psychological damage, and poverty has been passed down from generation to generation during slavery until now, because, you know, is a thing that people inherit. They inherit the pain that comes from being in poverty in their DNA. They get these things, but also, you know, when everybody in your area is like poor and suffering and there's all kinds of crime as a result of that. That creates all types of imbalance, to a people. And all of these things have to be accounted for and understood, in the claim for, justice and stuff like that, because it's not just give me a paycheck and everything's all right, really, because to give a people who have for a long time not had ample access to finances, right? And don't have experience with managing money, to give them a big paycheck would really just be putting money right back into the pocket of those who enslaved them in the first place, because those are the ones who are right there ready to sell you everything that you need and cannot create for yourself, or don't know how to create for yourself yet, and that's why, as King Emmanuel said, he didn't really want, I mean, I could be corrected, but I think this is why he said we don't want them to give us money while we're here in the West, send us home and then give us, the financial compensation so we can use our money to build our own economy and not just give it right back to the same people who, took it from us in the first place. That would be a dumb move on our part, and a intent, the intention of the people who are giving you the money and the compensation. I'm not really looking, they don't want you as an African to really rise up and be like able to self-determine. They want you to always be weak and needing them to provide for you and needing them to think for you. But, the redemption, that process would take education, and I even think that the Congress is set up as a way for us to redeem ourselves through, through Christ, through his teaching, through his principles, through a better lifestyle, through loving each other and creating the brotherhood and sisterhood that Marcus Garvey wanted us to have, King Emmanuel wanted us to have, that His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie wanted us to have from nation to nation. Because for Africa to really be free and to be able to maintain freedom, we have to be our best friends, and we have to, have that love amongst ourselves so that no other intruder could come in. So I think all of this is things that really we have to, some of it is on us to do, and most of it, we're calling for, the imperialists really to do their part, to help, really let us help ourselves. Let us do for ourselves what everybody else can do for themselves. And because, we would be competing on every scale with every other set of people had we not been enslaved. And anyway, I ain't gonna go too long because I know I could talk. But
Daniel.
Yes, my Lord.
You see what you described before you went into that last piece, when you were describing all the symptoms and the effects that we have. They have summed it up on that title, and I think it speaks volumes. It is called post-traumatic slavery syndrome.
Yes, sir.
And that, I think, sums up our total condition that we are affected by, because like you say, it's on multiple levels that slavery has set us back and has harmed us, and I think that definition puts it all into perspective, because monetary value, is even not realistic in some sense, because I don't know if most of the ones on this site at this moment and ones listening on the live stream, if they know the book How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Now, within that book, it shows you how the devious mind of Europe works. There's a system with money that it can be increased in value and it can be devalued. Now, what they did back in the day when we supplied them with cocoa and tobacco and coffee and all the stuff that they got out of Africa, coffee out of Ethiopia, because that's where the origin of coffee is, cocoa, and other provisions. We used to send shiploads from the different regions of Africa to Europe with an understanding, with a treaty that is signed. Now, when we started off trading, our goods that we sent to Europe, let's just use a figure, was say $10 million in worth. They came up with a system within the middle of our trading that switched all of that on us. They devalued the goods that came, okay? They valued the worth of the goods. So by the time they were finished, we were owing them for shipping our goods that they requested to them. You understand? They have a method. They control the whole financial system. They know how to manipulate the dollar. I'm in Jamaica right now. Today, the dollar might be 147. Tomorrow, the dollar is 138. The next day, it can be one whatever. You know? So money has no real value right now because it's not backed by anything. You know, back in the day, it was legal tender because it was backed by gold. Today, it's a promissory note. So money in of itself will not do justice to I and I if given as a compensation or a restitution. That is why, like the I said, we are calling for infrastructure development. We are calling for technology. We're calling for education of our bright minds so they can come now and run the continent where we no longer will need Europeans to man our hydro system or our alternative energy system or our communication system. Our own people will be able to man it because they'll be amply trained and in the numbers that they need to be, So all of that has to be part of our restorative justice requests or demand. Bless.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks, Honorable. All right. Well, if no one else, okay, Empress Cindy, your hand raised, go through.
There was an article written in 1985. In 1985, in the New York Times about Pope John Paul II apologizing to Black Africa for the involvement of white Christians in the slave trade. And the article goes on to say that, the Pope came, he visited Cameroon, a bunch of Cameroonian intellectuals. And during his visit, he said, he quotes, and I say that, healing and compassion, because the man who is in need on the side of the road is their brother, their neighbor. And he goes on to say that in the course of history, men belonging to Christian nations did not always do this. And we ask pardon from our African brothers who suffered so much because of the trade in Blacks. He says the gospel, he said, remains a call without equivocation. Now, for me, on my end, when I read this when I was a college student, I thought this was a BS apology. And, there's not just an apology that needs to be made on the end of white folks who orchestrated this whole ordeal. It's more than just this cockamamie apology. And that's all I have to say. Give thanks, my Lord. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Empress Cindy. I agree. I mean, the apologies really don't mean anything if you still see the same behavior coming from them anyway, When someone apologizes and they change their behavior, then you believe that they meant it. They apologize and still treat you away, then it's like you're just talking, you want me to forgive you so you can continue doing the same thing and make me think that everything's okay. The Pope is trying to gaslight Black people. Yeah. Empress Lily May, you can unmute yourself, Honorable.
Blessed love to one and all.
Blessed love.
Thanks for life, the mighty life giver. O Emmanuel, I Selassie, I Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks for all that was said and done. I enjoyed all of it. Chris Dougie, give thanks for the lesson as usual. Chris Daniel, give thanks for your input. And Chris Cindy, Uhuru, Brother Joseph, give thanks, and glorify. We must always try and keep these topics alive. I give thanks for the network, although I'm not always on, but we have to keep Freedom Redemption International Reparation, the compensation alive. Because right now, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth is celebrating her 70th Platinum Jubilee, big time. So she's putting her house in order before she make her move, So we have to keep on calling for Freedom Redemption International Repatriation and keep this topic alive.
Yes.
Have to keep this topic alive. And like Empress Cindy said, the Pope did kind of under the cover, like he apologizing, but like Daniel say, without action, just words. The same way, like I say, Queen Elizabeth is getting her house in order, because she knows say her days are numbered. She sent her children into the Caribbean the other day. They went to one of her sons and his wife was going to Grenada, and Grenada asked him, say, what happened? About Freedom, Redemption, and Arts Repatriation. What happened about slavery? In the last minute, they diverted and did not went to Grenada. I understand that from reading, Prince William and his wife went to the Bahamas and Jamaica and some other islands. And I understand that he spoke, I don't know which island that he spoke these words in, but like they sorry for slavery. That is the next underhand,
Jamaica.
way of apologizing. But we have to keep this topic very much alive. We can't get weary and, like everybody say, yeah, we crying for real Freedom, Redemption, International Repatriation. We have to make it alive. We have to keep it alive, by crying out, and just say when we cry out, he'll hear our prayer. And nothing isn't impossible for just to do. Because we will watch the world scene now. Famine is coming, war, we had plagues, So we as Black people keep on crying, Africans, for Africa, for the Africans, those at home and us abroad. And even if you look in Africa, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. If you look in Mali, Chad, Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya. I mean, all the rich states, they have them. France just pulled out of Mali the other day and Burkina Faso and Zambia and Mozambique and South Africa. If you look at those places, man, the rich places in Africa, Zimbabwe, all the rich places, they have them full up with war. People fighting against them one another for some simple little things, and they pumping in the colonialism through the internet, and the young African people's like they ain't even business, about slavery or how they are conditioned. They only want to follow what they see, on the internet, and they ain't see the judgment that coming, We Black people can be dancing and singing and sporting and doing all those things, and they really hurts my heart sometimes just to see how Africa is, you know.
Mhm.
But like we say, there's a God. When you have 10 miles, Bobo, he set us his perfect example, his kingdom, you know. And when the world come to know, say the Sabbath day for kept holy and all what's going on, you know, that it's only for a time. For the righteous, you must try to get more righteous still. And like I say, man, keep up this program. Let us keep on crying, you know. We be the only voice in the wilderness crying out, you know. Make our Father voice be heard, because King Emmanuel Charles Edward lays foundation. It's perfect foundation. And it's beautiful. And it's time I'll do it maybe few in numbers. I just say if a one have to hold up on a rock and a stone have to hold up, it not gonna fall, you know. So we, wherever we is, we just keep on crying out, you know, for freedom, redemption, international repatriation, compensation when we get home. 7 or 9 or 13. That's the guy we say even 21 miles of, well, Baxter line, a high water ship. You know, because not one word from him shall fruitless fall. So one day, you know, everything is gonna be, you know,
Give thanks.
Just have to have faith and keep on crying out. Uhuru, Uhuru, Uhuru. Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. So give thanks for the moderator and honorable leading priests and all sisters and brothers, you know. Let us keep on crying out for freedom, redemption, international repatriation. Give thanks for my few words. Blessed Lord.
Yes, Honorable. Give thanks for your contribution as well, Honorable Empress Lima, and your presence from Ethiopia, you know, as we see even in Ethiopia, the drama that's unfolding. We get a little bit more clearance on the situation still, but either way, it's not good, you know. The connection between Africa and Africans that's been in the diaspora is weak, and it has to be strengthened. That's a part of our reparative justice, you know. Yeah, we have to build forward that bridge to where we all feel like brothers and sisters again, and not like distant strangers, you know, looking at each other like we don't know each other. Yeah. So, yes, Empress Leah.
You know?
Pardon?
Some of that is on I and I, you know, how we go home, you know, we go home with a certain type of attitude and, you know, you have to go home to be an African. So you have to go home and participate with the Africans, you know, in their daily life, you know, and become one of them. We can go there and recreate a Jamaica or a whatever from the West there. And that has been our problem, you know. We're going home, we are not purged. So we're going home with these residual effects and ways that we have adapted, you know, and we are corrupting a place that already has its own problems. You know, we are compounding the problems that are there, you know, because there are other ones there all over the continent as races that, you know, the communities in which they live will fight for them, will protect them because they have gone home and become part of that community. The community see a benefit for them being there, you know. But we have gone on to Shashamane and created a ghetto in Shashamane. And these are realities we have to deal with, you know. We can't, repatriation, you know, is not the way that a lot of us envision it. It has to be structured. It has to be thought out. It has to be developed in phases, you know, where you send home your skilled people to create infrastructure to take in the masses, that when we come home, we don't burden the state. We have something to contribute to the development of the state, you know. But on the topic, Glasgow, the University of Glasgow have paid, you know, have made a gesture in paying reparations towards, you know, I and I, you know, the African, for, I guess, their people's part in the slave trade, you know. So that is something that recently was done. They paid, I think it was 200 million, I would think what I saw, the article I saw was US dollars, you know, and that was paid to the University of the West Indies, you know, so Sir Hilary Beckles, the leading Caribbean advocate for reparations. He's the one I saw an article with him, and he was giving the information. He also said that another entity is offering some funds as well to the University of the West Indies as part of, you know, reparations payment. So there are precedents being set around the world right now where entities and countries are starting to see, you know, the reality of what we've been agitating for. You know, are we ready to deal with it? You know, how will it be dealt with? You know, another topic that I will leave there with to look at is, are we satisfied with the governments of the Western world setting up reparation councils and committees to receive the reparations on our behalf? Do we see that as something that we want to deal with? For myself, you know, I can't see that as a reality because the governments of Jamaica are culpable as well, because they are neo-colonial governments. They have continued the system that they inherited. They did not change the gunboat diplomacy in which the West has functioned. You know, they have not changed the system of oppression on the poor, and they have not, you know, they have not defended the rights and justice of the poor, and they have not. They have defended the status quo. They have defended the old colonial masters. They are still collecting, you know, money for the crown and the crown land. They still have a governor general here in Jamaica. You know, hat off to Barbados, who moved away from it a couple months ago, and they are now a republic. They have gotten rid of the remnants of the British, and they are moving to being a totally independent country. You know, hats off to them. You know, but even with that move, they are still being trapped by IMF and World Bank. So yeah, we need to look at these, you know, realities that we face.
Yes, God, give thanks, Honorable. Gonna move it on a little bit, move it forward still, and kind of transition out of the question is, who owes who and why? Like, you know, I would like for us to, you know, be specific as much as possible within this, you know, reasoning. It's not to say we're gonna name every single company and every bank, but just kind of give an outline of who is it that, you know, perpetrated the crimes, who benefited from the crimes, and who is it that was a victim of the crimes that they are supposed to be paying back. I'll leave it open. I would like for someone else to, you know, have a chance to speak on it. I have my own say, but just put it to the group and let someone else give it a shot.
Bless the love. May I speak?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I.
So in terms of specific countries, I think we should start off with Spain and Portugal. They're the first countries that need to, you know, give some kind of, not just compensation, but just, they need to do what they have to do, because they're the ones who really orchestrated this whole ordeal when they first came in to study the outlay of the Congo and studying, you know, the continent. So I believe that they should be the ones to be paying. Also, England and the United States, Germany, you know, France. And in terms of specific banks now, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase. And yeah, this is what I believe. Give thanks.
Yeah. There's also Belgium, you know, who was responsible for their, you know, crazy, you know, ridiculousness in
And the Congo. Yes, my Lord.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
Belgium.
reminder.
Yes, sir. Belgium is the size of like an island, you know, it's a tiny little country. Congo is one of the biggest countries in Africa. You know, Belgium was poor before, then, you know, they went into the Congo and exploited the people and made them harvest rubber to start their companies making, you know, tires. And, you know, France participated in the rubber trade real hard. And a lot of them, I mean, it's any country that the Europeans went into, they found the resources, they built their whole empire. Because these are countries before this period of slavery. Every country in Europe was poor, except for Rome, or, you know, well, yeah, it would have been Rome at that time, Italy, and
Byzantine.
the Greeks. The Greeks were kind of, you know, a little bit, they had some culture because of their closeness to Egypt. And, you know, so all of the Western European countries were coming out of the Dark Ages. You know, they had, tyrannical governments, tyrant governments, you know, with some king say he owned the whole country and everybody and everything in it. And everybody was subject to the king or queen, whoever it was. And that's why they wanted to find the new world, you know? So the slave trade, the human trafficking ring that they call the transatlantic slave trade, and slavery itself in the West, in the Caribbean, in South America, Central America, and North America, is what built Europe. Before that, they didn't have anything. So everything you see today, all the subways, the nice fancy buildings, the art, culture, you know, all of that. Not just the materials to build it, but the skill, the know-how, you know, to even do these things. They got the inspiration from our ancestors. And in a lot of cases, even in Europe, our ancestors was the ones who was doing the building as well, you know? So all of Western Europe, basically, in some way or shape or form,
Want to say
participated.
something, my Lord?
They either, okay, Empress, they participated in it, or they benefited greatly from other countries participating in it. I mean, the Dutch East Indian Company was very big slave trading, you know, so the Dutch are there, even though they didn't really have too much territories outside of the Netherlands. They still, you know, made a lot of money off of the slave trade. And, you know, what they call Jewish people, which is, you know, another set of Europeans who have a different religion, but the same ethnic background as the rest of the Europeans, who they call the Jewish people, they participated in the slave trade as well. They built their, you know, banks. They're the ones who created banks. All of the money that's coming for these banks is coming from what? The trading African people, you know, so they participated in it. Now they, you know, control a lot of aspects of how the world is run. So even though they didn't have a country at the time, they definitely were in these European countries and had their role to play in the development of Europe through the money that was coming in from the slave trade. There were slaves they had slaves in Europe, they had slaves in the West, they also had slaves on the continent, you know what I mean? So they were getting money like crazy, hand over fist. And, you know, even though some country like Switzerland may not have owned ships and may not have owned any colonies, Switzerland is where they keep all their money. You know, it's up in the mountains. And so, you know, Swiss bank account that people talk about, Switzerland is their safe haven for keeping the richest people keep their money there. So they participated in it, you know. And if you own a bank, you make money off of the money that's in the bank. So yes, they benefited from it as well. And then you have like the northern countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. They didn't really have slaves, so to speak, but the new world was opened up for them to come to, you know, when I say the new world, I mean the West here where we are. They were able to, you know, they come here just like everybody else and build up themselves and you know, establish themselves in America and whatever other countries they go to. So, you know, Europe itself, except for like the poorer, small countries in Eastern Europe, you know, they all pretty much benefited, and maybe even the small Eastern countries too might have benefited in some way, shape, or form too. But the major ones are the ones that I just named and that Empress Cindy just named. So I'll stop there. Empress Maisie, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and speak.
Yeah, my lord.
Yes, I.
Let's Liverpool family, my lord and empress. Let's give thanks today for another day. Give thanks to the Sabbath went by.
Mm-hmm.
Give thanks to the first day of the week. You know, let's continue to ask the Father for guidance, you know, strength and power as we go along our daily duties. Glorify this morning reasoning so far. Give thanks to all who, you know, put their reason across. Glorify the topic, naturally. Yes. Give thanks to our God and King, Most High, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Yes, my Lord. You know, I know that a topic that I deal with all the time, first and foremost, is repatriation. All the letters then that are sent to heads of government, the president, prime minister, past and president, all the government that are contact. The topic is on repatriation internationally, universally, for all and I Black people to return back home, back to our home, Africa, you know, where our gods and goddess love to be. So we give thanks this morning for this reasoning still, you know, and all strength and power, you see, but I must do more agitation, you see, because in these days, you come like say, I ain't hear nobody really agitated on repatriation right now, and that's coming like it's on the back of the burner right now, and everything is going ahead of it. Reparation, all kind of thing, you see. But the Father did tell I that, you know, he said times are gonna come down in the last days where a very few people are gonna agitate for repatriation, and a very few people really are gonna want to go home. You see, I said down here in Jamaica is going to get very rich, right? As before, Jamaica was one of the richest country in the Caribbean, richer than Trinidad. And other places now they're at the bottom of the table, right? Even Trinidad is richer than Jamaica right now. So our Father said he's going to get back on top. He told me that one morning, and he was sitting down and was reasoning about, you know, things to come. You understand? And he told me that Jamaica is going to get rich again, right? And so therefore, people are going to be comfortable down here. And a very few, and I give thanks, I want to be in that few, you know, would be still agitating. I still want to go home back to Africa, where all and I come from. Because Africa is our home, you know. So that's why we have to continue the agitation. We have to follow up of what our Father left us to do. You understand? To continue to writing and agitate, knocking on doors, you know, and show them that we are not comfortable down here. And we want to return back to our heavenly home. You understand? With every other thing, you know, because the Father said we have to go home to build back Africa. You understand? We are not going to, as though they taught us that everything will be fine. Yeah, we have to go home and fix it. It is out of course, right? Imperialism and colonialism is strongly down there. You understand? So we, the saints of the Most High God, the saved children, have to go back and fix it, right? Oh, Prophet Daniel, you know that the Empresses of the study group, we still want to highlight, a little health and awareness same way, and I want to, the study group is interested with the topic that is brought forward, want to put a little taste in it, with education wise too, with look at health and awareness, because you don't know what people is suffering from, and get a little idea, of what we're talking about and what they can do to help themselves. I want to put in that to my Lord to make the study group is interested. And I've always been interested, but look more interested, my Lord. So I give thanks, for all what's said and done, and waiting on that moment, man. Give thanks, blessed Lord, my Lord and Emperor.
Yes, well, we talked about that, and just to keep it short because we're live, we'll do it at the end of the program. We're supposed to be at the start, but I was the only Empress on at the beginning, so we'll do it at the end. But forward to the topic at hand still. The question posed was who owes who? Who owes who reparations, reparative justice, reparative justice. And I would leave that, for someone else to even, I think the countries guilty have been named, but now there's also entities, that still exist today that maybe someone else can kind of help us understand who is it that we need to be agitating to? Yeah, because, even part of agitating is knowing what you're agitating for and who are you supposed to be asking or demanding to give these things to you. And you have to know why too. Anyone, please?
My Lord.
Yes,
Yes, my Lord. From here, well, in the South America, Spain was the one who was really in charge of the whole slave industry, slave trade industry. Spain, in places, well, in Brazil, it was Portugal. So these are different governments who I feel have not got that much of agitation coming from I, since it has been mostly Britain and America, the government that our father agitated. But I see in the course of the years, it is something that, well, reparations in a general view, seen from the Black people perspective here in South America, they have agitated to the embassy of Spain here in Colombia. And I see we as a Congress need to also get to that level, because I see, when I read about reparations, I see a term that comes up is the reparations bill. So there is an amount of items, items that are numbered, and the money that has to be paid, or the infrastructure that is to be asked for this government needs to be general in those terms. But of course, the European governments owe the Black people. In places like here in Colombia, there is a law, the law 70, which determines which are the communities, the Black communities, that are owed these reparations.
What's the name? My Lord, what was the name of the
law 70.
LOW?
LOW 70. Well, yeah. You can find it like that in Colombia, in the Colombian Constitution of the 1994. And this law suggested that there are Black communities in well, in specific places, like here in Colombia, who are descendants from well, Black people who was put under slave status. So, I mean, I've studied that law. I see it's not very, I mean, it is very like limiting in the terms of what they determine as Black communities here in Colombia, but it is something that, in my perspective from here, can throw some light on regards of that question, like who owes who. Looking for it some here. But yes, my lord, the government of Spain, and that is another thing, like the government of Spain is very poor. What will they pay for us? And
You finished, my lord?
yes, my lord, I was trying to find something here, but I will share it later on.
Okay, well, it's freedom, you know, I just paused, so I didn't know if you're...
No problem, my lord. Yeah. I'll just to add from that perspective, here in South America, well, you have the countries with the second, the third, and the largest and the fourth largest population of Black people. You know, you have Colombia, you have Venezuela, Brazil, which is after the United States.
No, Brazil is the number one.
Brazil number one.
The most,
But I mean,
most of any country outside of Africa is in Brazil. Most Black people.
And you also have Venezuela and you have Colombia, which are like third and fourth place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is the other thing, because as Priest Dougie was saying, the governments who are representing the case of reparations are not, are mostly the Caribbean countries, the CARICOM, but you don't have Brazil in the CARICOM, you don't have Colombia, you don't have Venezuela, and you have large population of Black people in those countries here. So governments who are representing. But yes, my lord, continue. Give thanks, my lord.
Yes, my lord.
You see what needs to happen there now in places like that? They need to have their own commission, their own reparations commission. Mm-hmm. All these Black diaspora places have your own commission, and then what needs to happen is the centralization. You see that word come into play again. The centralization now of the whole initiative, where all of these different regions now, you know, call for a conference where they all come together, send their representatives, and they sit down together and they look at what they have in common in the law, in the lawsuit, you know, what they share as a commonality, and develop on that premise together now an approach, you know, what they're gonna use to bring the culpable ones to the table, you know. Empress Cindy highlighted Spain, just as our brother Joseph highlighted Spain. Spain is a key, even though they might be, you know, struggling, you know, financially right now. You know, wherein you can't make a financial or, you know, a technological restitution, accepting the injustice that was done, accepting your culpability, your responsibility in what happened, starts and goes a long way. And that is what we need from countries like, you know, Spain, you know, Greece, these poorer countries in Europe, you know, that benefited in some way. You know, they can start by accepting their culpability, their responsibility for the injustice that took place. And, you know, support the cause now, you know, if they can't financially or technologically, they can at least verbally sign, you know, declarations and documents that say that they support the justice for the disenfranchised Africans. And that will go a long way. You know, this reparations issue is a very complex issue, in compiling the case itself, because remember now, Spain was the first that really started to, sail the seven seas and to look to capture lands and people, to add to their kingdom that they were trying to build, Isabella and Ferdinand and them people. See, so when they commissioned Columbus, that was part of that whole process, going out there and seeking new empires or new parts of their empire to add to them existing ones. So they started out the whole thing. Britain saw how profitable it was and jumped in and became the biggest dog in it. But Spain is definitely culpable. Now, to talk about Belgium, as much as they are a small country and they only came into Africa in certain places, they treated the African the worst. The Belgians, the Portuguese, they treated the Africans the worst. They had no empathy towards I, no sympathy, no form of humanity towards I. There was even one case where 28 Belgian soldiers with Gatling guns killed 10,000 Congolese in one skirmish. 10,000 were killed with Gatling guns by just 28 guys. When if they were man and they were real soldiers that decided to face I one-on-one, they could not have succeeded. You understand? So they treated us the most brutal, and we see it happening right down into South Africa with those same type of people, the Dutch and them who go down there and imprison people them for 28 years, 20 or much years. Mandela was in there, and the system of apartheid where them set up down there. So yeah, they are very culpable. Come around to Britain, places like Liverpool. Liverpool was where the first British slave ship sailed from. They were also the one that won the SS Jesus of Lulabeck. Liverpool as a port country in UK, they are culpable. The Barclays Bank, culpable. There's a lovely documentary out there done by a bridge named Beckford in England. It's called The Empire Pays Back. Everyone who is interested in understanding, who owes who and why should watch that documentary. It goes through and it named all the entities that are existing today. It even went on to name those that have changed their name to protect the guilty. Okay, they pointed out ones that have changed their name, but they have benefited, they are built on slave money. And at the end of it, he sat with a set of economists, three of the top economists in the world, and they crunched the numbers according to whatever formula they used to crunch the numbers. And that's when they came up with the $777 trillion that is owed. See, that figure scared the hell out of Europe, or the heck out of Europe, when they heard it, because exposing that. It wasn't just people of color stating this. It was their top white economists that crunched that number and came up with that figure. See? So yeah, it like I said, it's an ongoing process that is not simple, that will take legal minds, economists, and the grassroots to sit together and to formulate an approach, a viable, realistic approach, because no entity is gonna break themselves or put themselves in abject poverty to compensate another. So we have to think through the process and look at it pragmatically and realistically. That's it.
Thanks.
My Lord, blessed love.
Yes.
Can't forget France.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, Francophone.
Big time.
Because they have 8 countries in the continent right now that use French money as money, and those countries right now are paying France for the loss of their revenue that they were achieving
Like
when
Haiti, like
those
Haiti.
colonies. Exactly. See, so yes, France is a very culpable country. They act like they are our
Yes.
friend because when you had the French Revolution, a lot of Algerians, Black people now, we're not talking about those that you see today in Algeria. We're talking about the original Algerians. A lot of Algerians, Black people, were drafted into the French army to fight on behalf of France. And at the end of the French Revolution, those Black soldiers were among the first to be offered French citizenship. As a matter of fact, that's what France act as, though they did something for us. They're always shouting that out. They were the first to offer African citizenship. But at what price and for what reason? Yes, Mama, I love that. France, definitely.
Yeah. Well, every country, every island, every country on the continent would know exactly who it was, that participated directly in their exploitation, and everything that went along with, colonization and stuff like that. So like you said, every country should agitate. It should, take its stock and add it all up and see exactly what these people did, and everybody bringing it to them at the same time, relentlessly. Eventually, I don't think they would ever really say give in, but if we could present our case in a way that they could feel like this reparations thing is not going to be the end of their existence as a country, then they might, if we could speak to their conscience, then they might, at some point start to try and fix what they, created. But as long as it looks like we're angry and we're gonna try and kill them or enslave them or something, they're gonna shy away from it. If we look like we want to take all of their money and shut their country down, they're not gonna go. They wouldn't do that. So we have
my lord, Judge
careful.
Daniel, we who, my lord, I mean the Bobo Shanti family or the whole fraternity Rastafari, we who?
Black people in general.
Black people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Survivors of the transatlantic.
Yeah, but not every Black people know them rights and know what them all about. Because right now, some Black people not even want to recognize themselves with Africa, my lord.
Well, that's true, yes, but that's why we exist.
But for compensation, they will. For compensation, they will. Because a lot of those Black Americans that in America back in the day, when I step in America and we are defending Africa, we used to talk about, oh, I'm not from Africa. I didn't come from Africa.
Right.
I
know them saying that. Even those in Jamaica.
Now they are saying, now those same Black people saying, reparations, yes, we owe.
That is money.
Exactly, but they are calling out for the reparations part of it now. And to get that reparations, they have to acknowledge that them is African or have some form of African ancestry, some link to Africa. So it's that's why I say it is a complex situation that needs to be thought out, because a lot of ones just looking for a payday and they are not looking for a restitution. Restitution is different from a payday. Restitution is helping the continent of Africa to get on its foot and to be an independent, sovereign continent with nation states that are able to govern themselves, use their own resources to develop themselves. That is restitution. A payday is getting a check and going back to Lexus and Lincoln and to some big mansion about the place and spending your money amongst these people and giving back the money right back to them. That will empower them again to continue to be the richest and the dominant force in the earth. So that's where a payday comes in.
The father, so we don't take any money down here, priest Dougie. Don't take any money down here.
It's a part of our responsibility as a Congress to educate the people about their rights, and so that's why we always have to be on a grassroots level, communicating with our community and letting them know what your rights are, because a lot of, they're not going to get that education from school, of course. So,
totally agree.
They don't know now. But if somebody looks like they're going to benefit from something, I think they would agree to some extent. Maybe not everybody may want to repatriate, but that's all right. You know, I think they have that freedom of choice as well. They can stay here and give all their, if they get a check, they can give it all back to them if that's their choice, because, you know, it's not for me to tell you what you should get for your payment. You know, as a person who experienced it, you can determine for yourself. But as a Congress, we have, you know, a certain, you know, standard that we're calling for, but we don't really speak for every Black person, really. You know, not everybody would say, I want them to represent my interests, because some people don't want to go to Africa. Some want to stay in the West, and that's their choice.
And that would be a different level of lawsuit as well, because you know, the transatlantic slave trade lawsuit is specific. You know, it's not going to be Jim Crow lawsuit or civil rights lawsuit. You know, it's specific to the transatlantic slave trade. So within the compensation coming from that, the money has to develop Africa. You know, just to address what Mama May just said, that the father always said, no money down here. Yet that is how it will work out to be, where one reparations suit, but it is compartmentalized. You have the transatlantic slave trade, you know, issue. You have the neo-colonial government issue, you know, like we spoke about the other day with the Dread Act and shoot first and ask question after in Jamaica, and, you know, the Grenadian Revolution, where, you know, the neo-colonial government in defending the rights of the plantocracy, you know, killed or arrested or villainized unjustly African people. That's one level of lawsuit as well. You know, the Black Americans with their Jim Crow issue, with their colonization issue, you know, in the Americas, that's another phase of the reparations lawsuit. But like I say, when we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade lawsuit, that has its own precedents, its own protocols in how it's identified.
You need no see what I say.
Priest,
Yes, I?
you finished?
Yeah, man, yeah, man.
Okay, my Lord. Give thanks, Honorable. We give thanks, Empress Maisie, still, you know, for, you know, bringing that perspective. Yeah,
Very important.
It's important for us to get a clearance as to who it is we're talking about, and, you know, really specific, because every country didn't experience the same thing, and every government, every European government didn't do the same thing. Like our priest said, Belgium was worse than some other countries. You know, not every country would get the same payment, so everybody would need to know exactly what is owed to them. And then within that, still, you're gonna have people who don't want everything that they're offering too. You know, like repatriation is a thing that Rastafari want, but not every Black person wants to go to Africa. And even Marcus Garvey said he didn't really intend on taking them all back to Africa still. So, you know, we keep that on the forefront because that's what we want. And we think it's the best for, you know, not only us, but for the whole world in general. But, you know, not everybody is that, you know, they don't have to accept it still, even though it might be the best thing. As obviously people often reject what's good for them and accept what's bad for them, you know, and through the nature of the, you know, the implanted mind that they got on the plantation through, you know, the brutalization and all of them things. Which also one thing I wanted to say that is, you know, as far as, all right, before we left Africa, we knew where we were from. We came from a village. We had a family name. We had a culture. We had, you know, everything that culture entails, language, you know, religion, spirituality, everything. We had all of that. We was a complete people. When they took us away, we lost our name and we got Johnson and Kreft and Smith and Williams and Brown and Green and all of these other different types of names. And in South Africa, they have more like Dutch sounding names and stuff like that. But before there, before they came, we knew exactly who we were. And, you know, today they offer, you know, ancestry testing, which, you know, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't mean necessarily that just because you come from, your people came from the Gambia predominantly, that you should move back there. But I think it really is helpful for one to know exactly who they are and what their genetic makeup is, because it gives you a sense of connection to the ancient past, but also when we say Sankofa, you know, to look back to know where we're going forward, that, you know, the ultimate Sankofa is to know who your ancestors are. And I think that that should be included in our demand for reparations, that they help us to retrace, you know, our steps and find out who it is that we are. Yeah, we know we're Ethiopian, we know we're African, but, you know, even more specific, you know, and everybody might not want that, but I would like to know where I came from and who my ancestors are, etc. And I think people, it should be offered, you know, as a part of the reparation, the restorative or reparative justice, because that will repair something that was there before to where, you know, to what it was. Yeah. But anyway, leave the floor open for a moment. We'll, actually, Priest Kareem, if you had your hand up, my Lord, did you want to speak still?
Oh, my Lord, Honorable.
Yes, sir.
Yes, mighty prophet, Jah Daniel, give thanks again for the African Liberation Network study group going through. You know, give thanks for our loved ones. You know, we here participating and ones listening in the same way too. You know, Kingman, our Empress, you know, our little ones same way too. Glorify. Holy Manuel, I. Yeah, Jah. Rastafari. Yes, Jah. I was just listening in and I really hear too much, you know, but so far I understand the topic is about repatriation.
It's about restorative justice, reparative justice.
True.
Repatriation is part of that. Repatriation is part of the restorative justice system.
True. So that entails repatriation and with reparations.
Yes.
Freedom, redemption, repatriation with compensation, my Lord.
True.
The blessed heart of midday to all. Yeah.
Blessed
Give thanks, you know. Yes, my Lord, Honorable Priest Dougie. Yeah, give thanks for the strength, same way too, because I listening and it's enough things I learning still, you know. So I go in with it same way too. I just want to ask the priest also, you know, like what relationship, you know, August 1st, you know, even have to do with this topic too. You know, since August 1st is about emancipation, you know, 1834 emancipation, you know, it was 1834 to 1838, I think. If I correct me if I have it so right. You
different places had it at a different time, but yeah, within that same 1834 to 1865 was most places covered under.
And from what I understand, like, you know, even in America, in Philadelphia, they used to celebrate August 1st as a Black 4th of July, and them thing they, you know, openly before even the shackles and chains slavery was abolished in North America, you know, in certain parts. Because the 1834, even though it was for British, it was not just for the British, but for all ones, you know. It was for all ones to be free at that time. They truly emancipated. Yeah, I understand, you know, that Britain, you know, Spain, Amsterdam, Brussels, Denmark, you know, Belgium, all these places, you know, is who had a very, you know, strong hand in the transatlantic slave trade, you know, and even Spain and these places, you know, when it comes to the incoming and the slave trade, same way too, you know. Even in this time now, yeah, these people responsible, but the whole world should know by now, like, you know, the responsibility. And you see, like, a lot of ones don't want to face the responsibility, because even the whole of the United Nations now know, they know what part the ancestors had to play within the slavery, you know, and it's like they don't want to accept that they inherited, you know, the fruits of that slave trade right now, because even today, when a youth go school, if I should say a Caucasian youth and a, you know, a black youth go to school and they go in and they learning from the same teacher, you know, the Caucasian youth coming out and he inheriting his father's, you know, inheritance, what his fathers inherit from his forefathers, you know, which is what they inherited from, you know, the profits of slavery. And we know, you know, enough of our youth them when they come out of school, they going forward to work for these same people, you know. So we inherit slavery again, you know. So it is for even the younger generation now forget the understanding of what slavery is all about, and you know, not just because them say abolish at that time, we can see it still going on, you know. So, but
I think you're answering your question, you know. The question you asked about I don't mean to cut you, but I think you're answering your question about the 1st of August. See, because you did it very well. You pointed out that, yes, it was a moment when them released us, and then you come right back around and show how much of a sham it was, how much of a unrealistic move it was, because you free a set of people that had nowhere to go, no money, no means of going anywhere. They can't go back home to where them come from, but you just free them. How you free them? By you who brought them here not being responsible for them anymore, being responsible for their keep and care. So you just let them go to go suffer and die.
To come right back to you to rent.
Exactly.
Sharecropper and all of them things. More slavery.
At the time of emancipation, you know, brethren, they must remember how the stories are told by our ancestors, you know. They heard the news and they told them that it was real. They walked off the plantation, got to the gate, looked down the road, looked up the road, looked at each other and walked back in.
Wow.
No, reality, I'm not, it might sound like I'm trying to be funny, no, but I'm being real. This is exactly what happened. They walked out when they heard, and they finally accepted that they weren't gonna be flagged or shot down for leaving. They all came together, packed up their little stuff, walked out to the plantation gate. They looked up the road, they looked down the road, then they looked at each other and turned around and walked right back in. Okay, so that's what emancipation was to us. Okay, that's why Frederick Douglass made that 4th of July speech. That is what it meant to I and I. See, another level of suffering. No more whips, but suffering no matter what. Suffering is suffering. When you're dead for hungry, it's the same pain as if you throw the whip over my back.
That's such a deep concept right there. I never heard it explained that way, you know, but like to put it like that is like, man, like what a farce. What a, you know, like they pull the wool right over. And, you know, I'm sure the master was sitting right there watching them walk up the road. I know they're going to be right back. Where they going to go? Ain't nowhere they can go stay because every land is somebody's plantation. So
think about it.
They're going to go. They're going to be working for somebody. What they're going to do for their needs. They don't have money. They don't own anything at all. So they need everything. They don't know what to do for themselves because we took all of their responsibility away and, you know, provide every little thing on a basic level. So, I mean, they got nowhere to go.
True, my lord. So
the wickedest act. We think we celebrate it, but it's one of the wickedest acts of the whole slave trade. You know, because they knew we had no money to get back home, no way of getting back home, no way that we are feeding ourselves and our family, no way of protecting ourselves from more evilous people that was out there waiting to be predators. You understand? And they did what they did. It's true that Jah is ever on I and I side. Why I and I still here today. Rastafari in man from them time till now is who been guiding I and I through. That's just the mercy. If it wasn't for the mercy, I and I wouldn't be here.
In America, they had a little bit different experience. They had promised them 40 acres and a mule. And that was promised under one president. And they created they created a society. I can't think of the name of it. The Freedmen's Bureau, I think is the name of it. And, you know, they had agreed on doing that, but the plantation owners in the South were definitely not on board with that at all. And they were like, we're not doing that, because you have to remember at the time, the government, America is a pretty big space, you know, and the government was, even though it was seated in DC at the time, it was not in Washington, DC, I should say. It wasn't like how they have such a strong regulation over states and stuff like they do now. It was, each state was like a country of its own. So the plantation owners in the South were the rich people. They were the ones who, you know, no law is going through if they don't agree with it, because they're the ones who, you know, pay all of the taxes and own the governors, you know what I mean? So when they made that declaration, the plantation owners were not with it. They created the Freedmen's Bureau to minister it and make sure that these freed people got what they needed. And, you know, before they were able to implement it, another president came into power and he wasn't with it. So the whole thing, I think they gave some people some land, but
and it was taken back. Yeah,
exactly,
it was taken back. That was taken back.
Right, it was taken back. And all of it basically was just like, yeah, no, we changed our mind. I mean, they never really set their mind to it to begin with, but, you know, they went back on their word, of course. And, you know, there were some people, like what they call Gullah people or Geechee, who still, you know, there's remnants of their culture today in South America and South Carolina, Georgia, and maybe some other places like Alabama or something like that. But anyway, there was people, Black people, who came together and, you know, had some form of autonomy. But it was
that era is called the Reconstruction Era in their history. You know, that era that you speak of, it's called the Reconstruction Era, when we were supposed to be given 40 acres and a mule. Ones can go and Google it and look it up for themselves. The Reconstruction Era.
And they're still taking back that land right now. They're gentrifying, you know, where the Gullah people live to this day. So, you know, they had their eyes on it from such time. They're not giving you an inch at all.
I would like to ask a question still.
Yes, sir.
You know, like, what can we, you know, I would want to say just Bobo Shanti, but, you know, the Community of Freedom, Redemption, International Repatriation, what can we do, you know, in terms of reaching out to the communities around us, in the places where we live or where we dwell, you know, and connecting with them in regards to even such a topic? What can we do?
I'd say that's on a local basis. So wherever you are, you know, if you're educating yourself on the topic to be able to speak on it, then if they're having meetings, just be present, you know, speaking for yourself, but still representing, you know, something bigger than the I self. Still, you know, anyone who's qualified to speak on it, I think should be present on them in those meetings. You know, it's because, all right, you know, our culture is that we're not in no other organizations. So you don't have to really join the organization, but, you know, you could be present for them in their meetings to have our voice heard, to, you know, especially with repatriation, is mostly but Rastafari who really keep that on the front burner. But, you know, that's my opinion. I'm sure maybe someone else could give a better advice still, but.
Bless the love, my Lord.
Blessed and impressed.
Just keep hope alive. Keep on talking.
Love it. Keep on talking. It's true, Mama. Just keep the fire burning.
If we as a collective were making, you know, material like written literature, that's a good way, you know, to get grassroots level involvement on a local aspect, you know, to give out documents that educate people, you know, short, not no whole book, because, you know, we are known for not wanting to read, you know, so you know, pamphlets and stuff like the Congress used to put out things like that to educate people in the local area so they know their rights, and you know, to keep regular functions. That's how you organize on a grassroots level. That's how you know, build up participation, is by educating people about whatever it is that they're supposed to be active about. And once they get educated, then they have somewhere that they can land it, you know, some event or some meeting or something that they can participate in to actually, you know, build, like, to do something about, to be active with the education that they just received.
Daniel, you're doing it with the Liberation Network, using the tools that are available in the 21st century, because this is the tools
Yes, I.
You're doing it. We are on the job.
Yes,
so give thanks. Yeah, man, we're doing it. Yes, it can be done wider and further, because social media is wide and far, and more ones need to be doing on that level, you know. And in a sense, we need to link up, you know, all the conscious minds need to link up. We need to dispel a lot of these myths. Black people don't like to read. No, you understand? We have some of the most.
I'm like to sing. I'm like to sing and dance.
Right now in
well,
that has been part of our mind, because from the slave ship and I become shock and jibers, that we are now today the professional shock and jibers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit down and you look in these first world countries and they're running comedies, majority of the time is I and I there entertaining them. We have become professional shock and jibers, and we are not critical thinkers as we were, because remember, we taught the world what the world is built on, you know, the first mathematics, you know, understand? Pythagoras' theorem wasn't Pythagoras', you know. People must remember that. He went somewhere to study, which was a black country, taught by black people. So we gave them all of that. You know, what we need to do is start re-educating our youths, teaching them about the power of reading, and don't perpetuate the foolishness that our people don't like to read. That is part of our demise. All of these things that we have taken on, these residual Babylonian thing that them put in us, you know, it's them tell us these things, you know, and we accept it. Black youths don't know how to do mathematics, and we accept these things. We need to disprove them. Then always say we are God. Then where the power of God is? We just calling ourselves God. Then where's the God power? If we can disprove them and show them, like when Moses and Aaron did go before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh guys, them throw down for them rather than it turn snake, and them are going like that is powerful. And Moses and Aaron put them to shame. Where is our God power then? You know, brethren and sisters, we have to start think big. You know, we have to start relearn our traditions that served us, learn how to conjure up what we need. You understand? We want to reason with one another, and we don't have a phone. Telepathically send out a sound to Ethiopia. Mama Lily, I want to reason with you, you know. Where's the powers that we had?
I'll get it.
Yes,
and the youths, we must harness the youths. We must harness the youths.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you know, another thing, Priest Kareem, too, is like, you know, just like how we have in a study group, you know, local study groups where people can physically gather and you know, have material to study, workshops and things like that around reparations and repatriation for adults, for children, you know, whoever. But on a local level, I think it's good for people to get together, you know. Yes, we are doing a part on YouTube, and it is, you know, I give thanks that we're able to do this, but this information could be formatted into a short document, or it can be expounded upon and created into a workshop where people can get more and more in detail. So it just depends on how far one is willing to go with it, you know. But
this is where the youth them and their technology need to come in. This is where we need youths now, the younger minds, supposed to set to I, you know, Priest and Daniel, you know, so we can format this thing and we can create this and that with it. That's their world. You know, that's where we need the young minds to come in and exercise now them power and be a part of the whole revolution that we are trying to push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to have apps and all kind of things that make, bring it into the 22nd, what is it, 23rd century? No, not century. No, it's the 21st century.
21st century.
21st century, yeah. Into the 2022, bring it up to date. So on all levels, there's plenty that we can do. We can be creative,
It's prophecy of fulfilling. It's prophecy of fulfillment. Even in the 21st century, David will still beat Goliath. So this is the Goliath we face. Yeah, man. We are confident. We are confident in the victory of good over you. King Selassie. Jah
Rastafari.
Say the more we have involved and interested and active is the stronger our voice gets. And the voice of the people is the voice of God, So the education part is the first part to get us to even understand what our rights are. But then there's plenty of action that can be taken once the education is, even just begun, You don't even have to graduate, but just start learning about it. And eventually you will get active and be able to do something with it. Empress Lily, go through it.
Bless the Lord, my Lord. We have to get to the youths. Just cook some food, have a little sit around and talk with them and make them feel comfortable with talking with you, and then you could just culture them, because the other day when I had the African Liberation, they could get together, the amount of children that came, and they wasn't timid. They was really enjoying themselves, The time will come that when I'll be able to ask them that, do you know His Majesty? Do you know Empress Menen? Do you know Marcus Messiah Garvey? Do you know King Emmanuel? I'm a Rastafari, They just know me as Empress Lily, Sister Mama Lily, and everyone knows that we are Rastafari, Then I have to teach them about Bobo Shanti, and even if we get 3 out of that crowd, man, they could always tell their friends, And it's the younger generation, because the old generation, they already set in their Pentecostal and their Orthodox, and, the little young children, they're adventurous, and they love, to hear new things. So here in Ethiopia now, I am working with the children to get them to know His Majesty, because can't make they lock out His Majesty. Give thanks to the president now, Dr. Ahmad, that he unveiled a statue in Addis Ababa, and I think August coming that he's gonna unveil Marcus Garvey, although he's getting a struggle with the war. I give thanks that Jah used him to do, a lot of things to establish back His Majesty, glory. So we have more freedom now to talk about His Majesty, because 10 years when I first came to Ethiopia, it was like, you didn't even dare talk about His Majesty. And then when I came 5 years ago now, it was like, you could talk about His Majesty, And now, last Earth Strong for His Majesty, he was talking freely about His Majesty on the radio, So it's steps by steps, So everyone now, as a Bobo Shanti now, should just have some kind of event for the children, and start opening the children, the next generation, because they will be opening the next generation, and and the next generation, the older generation on their way out, including myself. You understand me? But as long as I'm alive, I'm gonna do what I could do to bring the other generation, to make them know that they have brothers and sisters, out in the West, everybody know about Jamaica, and they just learn about the Bahamas, and everybody know about America, and, make them know we are the same people, that was taken from Hara through Grand and gone to Zanzibar, and then we went to the West. Then you have Ghana, teach them about the other African countries, and make them know, say we are the same people. Because a lot of people, they don't know, You might think that people know, but they don't know. So if you put these things in their mind, they'll think about it, and then they'll ask their teacher, and eventually, we'll save some. And then, who knows, maybe down the generation, you'll have the Prime Minister of Ethiopia calling for people and to come home. That was, because the same works that we planted now in the future can bring forth freedom, redemption, international repatriation. Not Ethiopia alone, all over the world, because the more we call, we start calling from every corner of the earth. This will be bigger than reggae. Trust you me. I cry, but we have to keep on crying out. Freedom, redemption, international repatriation, and we want to go home. Who ain't home? We want to go home. On home, we want to see our brothers and sisters come home. So if we get the youths on our side, man, some of them can all make song and all, in their own language. Because Africa have a lot of youths. I think it's Rwanda. I think the population is under 25.
Yes, because of the genocide that happened. Most of the elders got killed in the genocide. So yeah, their population is really young.
Yeah, it's really young, so we have to get them, we have to get our people, we have to get our youths, We have to get our youths. We have to get, and that Dougie have a whole army there. Daniel, you have your little army, and I have my little army, my 3 grandchildren. I get one of them, me good, me satisfied. But so we have to use the youths. The youths is our future. So we have to keep on, let's put on little functions, man, and give them little food and little drink, and give them confidence in us that they could listen to us, and push the food down their throat,
Push it down the throat.
No. We just, make them ask us questions and think. Next thing your parents are telling, but your culture, them children, this and that and that. So, you have to make them want to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
But yes, man, let us keep this hope alive, Let us make this our mission, for cry out,
Yes, Empress.
Don't ever stop crying out,
Priest Kareem, your question get answered good, my lord.
Oh, true, my lad. Give thanks for Priest Dougie, Give thanks for Empress Lily, same way too. Yeah, give thanks for, even them words, because it's true. The other day, African Liberation Day, we went out in the community. We had a little service out there and everything. And when we realize, is the youth them, all the little youth them, all the little prince and princess, them was the one who were coming in, from in the community. Them was the one who was asking to pray and all them things, So them were coming in, and, them was very attentive. Them listen to everything. While they were attending there, who no come in and who just circle around and who come in, they were just, focus on everything. So they even once come and say, that we can't stop. Not just because we come and have a service in the community. We have to come back in the community now and deal with the people, them.
Yeah.
On a level like, even if you come in and give them a little culture, do a little tree stone, and give them a little culture, and so, reason, teach them about Africa, teach them about them black self, little different things, Marcus Garvey speech and all these kind of things, and go and build up the youth, them, because, the elders been there, and give thanks for who all hold the torch, and I relay in this thing, yeah, because I come, to me, it was just the other day I come, just the other day I forward to this, yeah, and I don't see like what, man, age is increasing and man getting younger again, same way too. So man is going to become elder, same way too. So who they for continue hold up the torch, who they continue the relay, you know, and keep it going until, you know, Freedom, Redemption, International Repatriation is fulfilled. So yeah, we have to go and build that, you know, relationship with the community, you know, even if it's a, you know, it's a Salvation Warrior, and a little band practice, a little choir practice out the road, nothing wrong with that. You know, a little community service. Yeah, man, it's good to build up that strength there, because now when they use them growing up with this thing what we plant inside of them, you know, what King Emmanuel plant inside the way, you know, they're gonna see the world different now. And they're gonna make different steps, you know, because now the politician can't fool them no more by coming and say, oh, buy a fridge, buy a car, let me help pay down on your house, oh, I gonna pave the road them, you know, and then nothing else ain't come out of that. It's just the same situation, they stuck again in a loophole again. So, you know, give thanks, because we have to teach use them, and, you know, the man say educate a woman, you know, you educate a whole nation, you know, so give thanks for the Empress them same way too, who you know, fulfill that part. They, you know, Empress men, and we love you, you feed the little children, and you teach the little children, the mother of creation, Empress men and Omega Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. So we give thanks for all them strength there. And as the Empress said, we're gonna continue to talk. Yeah, we needed them strength this same way too. Give thanks for tuning into this, because, you know, Freedom, Redemption International is required, international repatriation is required. And we not stop, and we're gonna make every year hear it, and we're gonna make the youth them hear it and teach them what it's all about, make them understand it, you know. Yeah, because them come forward, them is the future, and we want to see a brighter future. You know, we tired of staying down here in the West, we want to see a brighter future. So we're gonna put it inside of them now, so we can get that future, you know, invest in our future, what we want to get out of it, you know. My Lord and Majesty.
Yes, man. A strong point, you know, very strong point, you know, very strong point. You see, that are one of the key to this whole, you know, bridging the gap forward, you know. We have to now learn how to elecute the struggler in a way that the youth them can identify with it. Because the misnomer that they have been taught is that, oh, them are old people, man, them think different from me. That old time thing, man. It's the same struggle from the time I went Toby, Kunta Kente. It's from that moment, from a come off of the ship till now, it's the same struggle we are fighting. To return forward home, return to a rightful position as a people, to regain back with humanity, you know, to hold on to a sanity, you understand? To evade poverty are the same struggle. So we need to elecute it in a way that the youth them hear it and understand it. We need to, you know, we have to come down to their level at some point. We have to find the language that they identify with, that they will listen to, and the format in which they will listen to it, and present it to them. Like the prophet said, place the food within the children's reach. That is our duty as priests and empresses of the Most High. See, so we have to endeavor to do that. And as Mama Lily said, keep on doing it, keep on shouting out, never make the fire go out. It might get low, you know, it'll come down to some embers more time, you know. But when you look, when you least expect, yeah, man, dry stick come from everywhere, come build up at the fire. So we have to just keep the fire burning. Give thanks.
Yes, my Lord, Empress. So far,
Pretty, my Lord, just one word to straighten this. You see, all what we are listening, you know, family, this, you know, hopeful statement, hopeful knowledge where, you know, I hearing from honorable priests, empress, and priests, and so on, prophet. They are good strength. And we don't must make these words just go by the wayside. Okay? We must manifest them. Right? We must do what we say we're going to do. We must, whatever we do, we talk, we do. Right? Over the years, it's just a lot of words. Right? And then there's no work to even strengthen it. And that is what we need now. We need the work and the words to go together. You understand? Because we are in a serious time. You know, see, and it's not that we don't know what to do. We know exactly what to do. So we need to get together and do what we have to do, right? The word and the works goes together. Strength and power, my Lord.
Yes,
Blessed Lord.
Majesty. Give thanks and praise. Yes, I agree. You know, the education is the first part. Once you get the education, then, you know, to say to whom much is given, much is required. As His Majesty sent people, you know, graduates, high school graduates out of the country to get education in further developed countries. Their mission was to go and get education and come forward to Ethiopia to teach the coming generations. So the same way, you know, we have a mission. Once we get this information and we get the knowledge and the understanding, we are to use it to, you know, build in whatever way it is that we can, you know. Some of us can have local meetings, some of us can do it online, some of us can do it in different ways, but whatever we can do with it, we got to do something with it. So I agree, Empress. I wanted us, you know, so far we've defined what is justice and, you know, who owes. And, but I would like for us to, you know, before we seal up, talk about what crime, what injustices was committed against us and still being committed against us, you know, because to teach the children, to teach anyone, to teach ourselves about this, you know, topic of reparation and repatriation and stuff, you have to really be clear on what someone did to you. When you go into court, you have to know exactly what it is that you're charging them for, so that you can, so the judge can determine what they owe you based on the severity
Charging
of
them
the
for
crime.
genocide. Genocide, we are charging.
Genocide is one aspect of it, killing people, you know, because of their genetic makeup, being because they're African, they killed us. Yes, that's one aspect of it. And we can make a list, you know, so that can be, you know, a foundation knowledge that we, you know, when we going forward after this meeting, we would, anybody who watched this or anybody who participated in this should be able to tell a person, a Black person or a white person, anybody, any group, who committed the crime, what crime did they commit, what do they owe you for said crime, you know, so that you have a case. Yeah, so Empress Cindy, your hand raised. Go through it, Empress.
Honorable, I have a question. Do you believe, does this global study group believe that the topic that we're discussing about is kind of like a twofold topic in terms of what Black Americans in the United States is seeking versus what Black people in the Caribbean are seeking, or in you know, South America and Central America are seeking, or do you think it's just all one? You know, everybody's on one accord with what we're asking for in terms of, you know, reparations and international repatriation and redemption. Do you think it's a twofold thing?
I think there's a commonality across the board. There's common things, but then you also have specific things based on the country, based on the people and the history, you know, specific to, like, Jamaica's history is not the same as America. America's history is not the same as Brazil. Brazil's history is not the same as South Africa. So each country would have to have their own case. But together we all have also a case, you know, because it is a crime against all of Africa and all the African people. But then within that, there's, you know, specifics that each, like Congo would have to deal with Belgium one-on-one to get a justice from them. And, you know, Ghana and all of the countries that was, you know, dealt with by Britain, they would have their case against England, France the same way. So each European country and the colonies that they, you know, committed their crimes in, they would have their colonies, former colonies, would have to build a case against them and work together to get their justice. But on a whole, I think we do have certain things in common too. But, you know, the repatriation part, as I said, I don't know if you was on before, but not everybody wants repatriation. Not every Black person wants to go back to Africa. So yes and no. to answer the question from my perspective, but I don't want to take up too much time on that because we don't have a lot of time left. If anyone else had anything they wanted to add to that, then feel free, but I wanted to answer the question about what are the crimes committed. Go through, my lord.
Quickly, with what Empress Cindy is asking, we spoke about it earlier. It's just simple. There are different aspects of the same reparations issue. You're going to be dealing with the transatlantic slave trade by itself, differently now from the Jim Crow colonization, civil rights issue that Black Americans are agitating for, even though it has the common thread. The common thread through it all is both the transatlantic slave trade as well as what is continuing to happen in the Americas right now is because of racism. So racism is one of the reasons for what we have gone through. It's the overall, that overall principle that we have to burn out of life, out of the earth right now. Racism, because like the emperor's speech said, it pits one race against another, make one race feel like it's superior to another. And when people feel like they are superior and another is inferior, they have no regard for the inferior one, as we saw took place in Rwanda with the genocide between the Hutsi and the Tutsi, where the colonized powers brainwashed one group into thinking that they were superior to their brothers. Same people that grew up same place, intermarry and everything. But because of that colonial brainwashing, turned against each other. See? So racism, my people, is the key, is that overall thread that binds us together. We face that enemy no matter where we are, as Black people.
Yes, ma'am. That clear, Empress Cindy?
Yes, I give thanks, my lord.
Yes, honey. Thanks for the question. It's a very pertinent question for sure.
Definitely.
Yes, I. So, anyone want to start, making a list? Anyone, from their perspective, what crimes was committed against Black people?
My lord, I would say to add to that list all the consequences that come from slavery, because when they signed the emancipation, and as the other was saying, we were left in a hostile environment where a lot of things has happened, where we've been put in zones of danger, we've been put through genocide, we've been put through, we've been stolen our land. That's another crime. That we were stolen our land, we were put through slavery. That we were robbed from our traditions, that we were imposed our religion, we were imposed an ideology that is not ours. So a lot of psychological crimes as well. Yes, my lord.
Give thanks, my lord. In plantation life, it was like, crime was, any woman was eligible to be raped whenever the slave master or any of the overseers felt like, raping her. Those type of things, taking children from their mothers off of their breasts, that's criminal, just so like the everyday family life, so-called family life, destruction of family, really. Plantation didn't build family, it really destroyed family and gave Black people a messed up template for what family life is supposed to be like. Like, if you grew up on a plantation, you didn't experience a healthy family life. Just like nowadays, people who grow up in the projects and ghettos don't experience healthy family life. It's been that way since the plantation. The plantation set the stage for that. Watching the men now you see them get arrested and beaten by police before they got captured and whipped and hung and castrated and stuff like that. All of that was, you know, so just the overall society based on racism and the, you know, the bad treatment of the slaves, all of that is criminal, you know, on top of
Disenfranchisement.
yeah, disenfranchisement, yes,
degradation,
Sufferation, impartiality.
homeless and shelterless.
I would also
go through.
add to, pardon me, I would also add original prisoners of war.
Mm.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean? How that's when you say that's a crime? Give us give me
because they captured us on our lands and they imprisoned us on other people's lands and also on their lands as well.
Yeah.
So when I say prisoners of war, is because we had no business with them. We weren't in war with them. We weren't in war with each other. They was at war with us, and they had the guns. They had all the weaponry to do what they did, and you know they came with all their muskets and all these things, and they took us as prisoners. So that's why I say prisoners of war.
Give thanks. Empress Lily, you feel free to speak on it.
Yes, I love. But I'm talking about the prison system and killing of black people.
Can't hear you, Mama.
Pardon me. I was saying, prison this.
The connection starts to get sporadic.
Mm-hmm. Internet.
Yeah, I know. You sound good now too.
Okay. And Cindy was saying about prisoners of war.
Mm-hmm.
What I am saying is the present day prison system is deplorable. All of our man is in prison. And when you take the man out of the home, which is the Willie Lynch syndrome, you know, they broke the black family apart and weakened the black woman and the black man. And when you see the prison numbers in America, it's deplorable. And they had a system. I don't know if it's still it's still active today, but they had a system that they planned for the black youths is from the classroom into the prison. Anyone heard about that? That system that they had from the classroom to the prison.
Okay, yeah, prison.
Yes, Lily May. Yes,
Classroom,
Empress. I've heard of it before. Yes.
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 And could you imagine a judge will take a 19-year-old youth off the street and he'll give him 99 years in prison for a traffic offense? And that same judge was found out that he was a part of this system. The more youths he put in prison was the more money that he got. And our beloved basketball player, Mr. Michael Jordan, invested his money in that system. While Mr. LeBron James invested his same basketball money, two great heroes, into educating children by giving them free scholarships. So what I am saying is that the prison system, the current prison system, is part of Prophet Daniel, what you call it now?
The school to prison pipeline.
No, I mean, what you say is part of the
Repertory justice, reparative justice.
Is against the Black race.
I'm sorry, Bruce. I don't know if I answered your question.
Give thanks for a moment.
Give thanks, Mama. Yeah, that's a big point. The prison system currently mostly Black. You know, even though in America, at least Black people make up about 13% of the population, I think more than half of the prison population is Black people. Yeah, and you know, also the wrong education that we've gotten since we've been here about ourselves also is a part of the damage that's been done, you know, because it's lies, you know, it's not like they just told us, you know, partial truth. They just told us outright lies about ourselves. And that damages a people's self-esteem, you know, and your self-esteem is really important to how you, your confidence. And if you're not confident, as Marcus Garvey said, you're already defeated, you know, so we're from the school, we're defeated from there, you know, from young, when we get that wrong education about ourselves. And when you look on TV and just see a certain image of Black people and you see poverty and things, that also helps to deplete people, not just a person, but a whole people's self-esteem of themselves, you know? So this whole, the media propaganda, you know, system is a part of it as well. The, you know, TV, the radio, all of it, everything that they put out there for us is just unhealthy. The foods that they've given us is poison. But with that one, I would say it's not just Black people that do that too still, but either way, it's still, you know, created a lot of diseases in us that we didn't have before we came here. This, you know, the fact that so many people, lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure and cancer and stuff like that, we didn't come here with those in such numbers. That's a part of being in plantation, from being poor and not being able to afford good food, you know? So poverty in general is a crime against Black people.
Another thing, Honorable Prophet, what they say, that most Black youths won't live past 25. 18, sometimes they say 18 to 25. Yeah, that's the next thing they put on top of we, you know? That's like a crime. That's they telling we can't live no longer than that.
Yes, right. So, yes, family. I don't know if anyone, Empress Cindy, you have your hand up, you can go through.
I pray thee. I don't know if anybody said if it was a crime against humanity, but I think that it's a huge crime against humanity.
It is, for sure. Yes, we did establish that, but there's nothing wrong with reiterating it because it's true.
Right.
They call it a slave trade. I really try to stay away from that term because it's not slaves. They were trading as people.
It was people.
Yeah, slave is like, you know, not a human. The slave was actually 3/5 of a human in their law. But a human is a human. There's no such thing as 3/5 of a human unless you're missing maybe like one arm and one leg, but you're still counted a human, you know? Yeah, so reject all of that type of terminology and you know, accept the fact that it's African people. They was trading like cattle and goats and, you know, livestock. People that have feelings and history and culture and stuff like that. Yeah, so, all right. I mean, yeah, if there's nothing else anyone wanted to add, we do have, you know, the Empresses have some information that they wanted to present on health. And I won't go any further than that. I'll let them introduce the topic themselves and let them speak. Hold on. If anyone else has anything else that they wanted to add to, you know, the topic of, repertory, reparative justice. Now is the time before we give it over to the empresses.
May I say one last thing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I would like to read a quote by Chinua Achebe.
Okay.
He's a Nigerian author who wrote many books, including the book Things Fall Apart. So it's a quote that reads, "The white man is very clever. He came quietly with his religion. We were amused at his foolishness and allowed him to stay. Now he has won our brothers, and our clan can no longer act like one. He has put a knife on the things that held us together, and we have fallen apart."
Yes, I. 100% facts. Brainwash, whitewash black people, took off the black head and put on a white head with blonde hair and blue eyes. And now black people bleach their skin to look white and, do everything they can to disassociate with Black and Africa and hate themselves, because like I said, self-esteem, the propaganda machine that the Europeans, have really perfected, is really negative when it comes to us. Every image you see, when they advertise, they don't really ever show a Black man and a Black woman. It's always, well, a white man and a Black woman, or a Black man and a white woman, and if it's Black people, you see it on TV more times. If it's on a European or white people program, channel or something, they're doing something destructive to each other, or they're, buffooning, and as he said, professional shuck and jiving. So, the image that they put out of us has definitely destroyed how we see ourselves. And that's, crucial to any people to see themselves. King Emmanuel, give thanks for King Emmanuel coming and tell us who God, and we are the first, the original God and Goddess of the earth, so that we can have a better view of ourselves. And, the way we talk to one another, we lift each other up and we call each other my Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess, Priest, all of these different terms, so that we, we're not boy and gal, boy and girl, bigger than that, original God and Goddess of the earth. So, all right, at this time, then, if no one else, had anything on the topic of restorative, reparative justice, then we'll, let the sisters, the empresses, have a moment to share their findings on health for this week. And then after they get done, we'll have a few closing remarks and, a prayer to seal up. The floor is yours, empresses.
Okay, so my name is Empress Cindy, and I am representing along with Empress Maisie, leading Empress, along with Empress Leanne, Empress Rachel, and Empress Dion. Empress Maisie, you have the mic. Would you like to say something before I start?
Blessed Lord family. Yes. Give thanks again, as I said this morning, we have a little health and awareness here, for the study group family, you don't know who are going through issues, of our goodie. And so today we are going to give a little highlight about our kidneys, very important member of our body. So we are going to give, a little highlight, So the sisters them do some research, and so we're going to impart it to the IDEM. All right, so Sister Cindy, you take over, and share what we have, the work that we have done towards such fulfillment. My sister, give thanks.
Well, give thanks, John Daniel and the African Liberation Network, for having I to discuss what Empress Maisie just mentioned. So we came up with the topic kidneys. So that's what I'm going to be discussing. The kidneys are two reddish brown bean-shaped organs found in vertebrates. They are located on the left and right in the retroperitoneal peritoneal space. It receives more blood than all other organs except the liver. The kidneys are important because they filter blood, keep the right amount of fluids in the goodie, help make red blood cells, and help keep blood pressure under control. Kidneys remove waste products and extra water from our goodie. It also helps keep our bones healthy. In terms of race, how kidney disease affects people, Black Americans are more than 3 times as likely, and Latinos are 1.3 more times as likely to have kidney failure compared to white Americans. So some risk factors to kidney disease, also known as renal disease, include diabetes, high blood pressure, being 60 years or older, having a family member with kidney disease, diabetes, or high blood pressure. If you are Black American, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, American Indian, all these populations are affected by this. Over time, kidney disease can lead to kidney failure, and it could also cause heart and blood vessel disease, and it could also cause other health problems. People with risk factors should get tested because in the early stages of kidney disease, most people don't have symptoms. Kidney disease can be treated with through dialysis or holistically with herbs. Some ways to protect kidneys are to keep your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and cholesterol levels under control. You can lose weight if you need to, eat healthy meals, get regular exercise, don't smoke, limit your alcohol consumption, and avoid over-the-counter medicines. Some of the symptoms that one would experience if they're having kidney issues are fatigue, insomnia, itchy skin, frequent urination, bubbly or foamy urine, swollen ankles or legs, and some of the advanced stages would be loss of appetite, nausea and vomiting, and a bad taste in your mouth and bad breath. You kind of have like this metallic taste or smell in your mouth, and you could also experience tremors. The habits of abusing salt and eating processed foods, not drinking enough water, and missing out on sleep are also hindrances of kidney diseases. Racial disparities in kidney disease are diabetes and hypertension that lead to kidney disease, and poor access to insurance and medical care leading to delayed diagnosis, and faster progression of kidney diseases can, also affect people. Kidney failure in the final stages is life-threatening if left untreated. Some of the foods and herbs that we came up with to assist with kidney diseases are fruits like watermelons. They are natural diuretic, and it helps to increase the flow of urine. We also have pawpaw seeds, known as papaya seeds. You could actually swallow those seeds, and they offer protection against kidney damage. It also is these seeds can also be used to take out worms. If you have issues with worms in the gut, that's also used for that. You can just swallow them. Another thing that I also found was plantain extract. It also boosts kidney health, and it also helps with men and their prostate. And other herbs that one can use for kidney diseases are stinging nettle, dandelion root, black cohosh, ginger, turmeric, and beetroot juice. Give thanks for the time. my Lord and Empress.
Thanks,
Lots of
Empress.
love.
Yes, I give thanks for sharing.
So we give thanks, and we are all about what, kidneys are all about and what you can use. Now, in my group, is there any question towards, what we just learned? Is anyone have any question? What we just learned, or
Yes, love.
Yes,
say
I
love
do.
him?
Give thanks for the health tip. Papaya seeds. They have to be chewed. They have to be chewed. You just can't swallow them like that. They have to be chewed to work. That's my.
Yes, I used to eat it. Since I came up here, I don't get any to eat, but I used to eat it. It's not a nice taste that it carries still, but I chew it.
You eat it fresh while like right when it's soft still, or you dry them, or what?
When you cut the papa to eat the papa, you eat the seeds. You don't throw away the seeds. I used to clean it out and throw it away, but I learned of the health benefit from it. And so I just eat the seeds, but it's not an easy thing to eat, eh? It's ash, but it's very good.
And it's very bitter.
Yeah.
Very, very bitter.
Just eat it with the papaya.
Maybe easier, if you can't take the taste, maybe easier to blend it in a smoothie or something, if you can.
But that's
Yes,
the
my
finding
lord.
of it still.
Hello, my lord, empresses.
That's the
Blessed
love.
love.
That's it, Empress.
This is Honorable Sister Maisie.
That's
Prophet
the love,
Daniel.
Samarina. Bless
Oh,
the love.
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 Yes, I actually just signed it
Oh, give thanks and welcome, my
because
sister.
I've been busy and then I won't be meeting. Good to hear your voice again, sister. And thank you for always checking up on me. Thank you for always staying in touch.
All right, sister, give thanks, man.
Yes. Yes, as it turns out, right? We as Rastafari, we thought that that we had our diet was good, right? The way we were eating was good, right? We were ital, we didn't eat meat, and we thought that was the end of it. But it turned out to be just the beginning, just the start, because our diet was lacking in so many other ways, right? And it was also filled with a lot of starch, carbohydrates. We know that on the foundation, all the grown provisions and the rice and the corn, the turned cornmeal, the flour was, so a lot of us did develop diabetes. So we must start from within now. We really need to sit down and to reconstruct the Rastafari way of eating, right? I mean, for lack of a better word, diet. So we need to revisit that because there are so many things that we thought we were doing right in the beginning, and it turns out that those things were harmful to us. And we must be willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. You understand? Because a lot of times we behave as though what we have in place is set in stone and it cannot be changed. But some of them must be changed. They must be changed. And that is what I want to say with respect to this topic. It's very important topic. It is a very important topic because we have to look at the myriad ways in which we are being harmed. Some of it is some of it is from outside, but also a lot of it is from within. There are things that we can change. So even as we are demanding reparative justice from the wider society, we ourselves, there are things within our culture, within our purview that we can change. And so we must start with those things. Before we expect others to do right by us, we must do right by ourselves. Right?
Yes, I.
True, I.
Hello?
Yes, I.
True, yes, Empress. True,
yes.
True. Yes, I. For sure.
Yes.
Give thanks, Empress. Yes.
Right. As I said, I was talking to someone earlier today on another platform. And I'm saying the reason why we can't get justice from the world is because we ourselves are not just people. We are unjust to each other. So why did we think that we are in, yeah, it's our bad karma why we can't get justice? Because we ourselves are not just. Look at the way we treat each other. Look at what we try to do to each other. And then we think that, yeah, it's karma. It's karma.
It's real.
You get back what you give out. And so anyway, I have another there's another Zoom meeting that I'm required to be on. They're going to be talking about the Homeland Return Act, that draft bill that the Ghana government already, I did so last October, made, and other things that need to be added. My area of practice, it is and terminology and concepts. It is my area of practice. It is my area of expertise. And so my input is vital, it is essential. And so that is why I get involved, you know.
Yes.
I want to be in that discussion. But this is also, but I am double booked.
Yes, sir. We'll get thanks for a moment.
I am double booked.
Thanks.
Yes.
Give thanks for sharing,
Yes.
Empress.
I'm very glad to hear. Yes. And I'm going to be, and very soon I'm going to be sharing something else, because I'm starting a series where I'm pointing out the ways in which racism continues to harm us as Black people, right? Because a lot of times when we talk about racism, people will just sort of dismiss us and say, you know, as though we're talking about something in the past. Something, you understand? Failing to realize that racism continues to affect us. It is very much alive and virulent, and continues to affect us in ways that we don't even recognize. That is how clever, that is how embedded it is in the system, so that we don't even recognize racism when we see it anymore, because it has been normalized. And so that I want to start this series. I'm going to be sending out maybe maybe every 2 weeks or so, every week, the existence of racism aspects of society. What the Empress just talked about in terms of, I'm telling you, in healthcare and medicine, a lot of racism. We're treated, you know, and then the foods that we are, you know, the food that's called the poor people live in, a lot of times and vegetable stands in those neighborhoods. Those, you call them the chain stores like fried chicken and Popeye's chicken. Those, and that is what contribute to our poor health.
True.
And so we have to make a concerted effort. We have to make a gallant effort to to eat healthy. It's harder for us and even more expensive, because those types of supermarkets are not in our neighborhoods. So we have to take extra steps to get, wholesome food, fresh foods.
Yes.
And so, as I said, in my series, I'm going to be talking about the various ways in which racism continues to impact us. All right. And that is my contribution for this. That is my contribution for this afternoon.
And
so I want to say blessed love to everyone. Yes. And Honorable Daniel, give thanks for your continued work, on every level. We truly appreciate you, your devotion and your dedication. It's not always easy. And sometimes you may even want to feel like giving up, because I know I feel that way a lot of times. But
True.
Listen to me. We have made a commitment, and we're going to see it through. We are going to see it through.
Yes, Empress. For sure.
All right. Blessed love, my
Give thanks for your contribution, Sister Marina, and glorify my beloved sister. Bless family for me,
Yes.
Yes, I give
honorable.
Yes. Blessed love. Thanks for coming in for a few moments here in a bit. We look forward to the programs that you bringing forward. So.
Yes, And
I think you're on the phone. Sister May, heal up Sister Maisie. Yeah, just heal up Sister Maisie and Daniel is on the phone now.
Greeting.
There are others as well.
Hey, Priest Bud, my
Greeting.
Lord, bless you, love, honorable.
Bless the love, my Lord.
Give thanks and blessings to the family,
Yes,
you know.
my Lord, much love.
Yeah.
Much love and blessing to you,
I hear a
Bobo.
lot of the eye that Daniel, blessed, you know.
Oh, my Lord.
Yes.
Give thanks.
So,
To hear the argument.
yes, Papa seed is not bitter, eh? Papa seed when chewed with the
No.
papa is very good. You don't have to eat
Yes.
all the seeds in one papa. You can just eat that on one slice. And the rest of it you can discard or nurse for it to grow. But
Thank you.
papa seeds are very good for digestive system and for kidney problem. That was what I was hearing in conversation before I left. So I just want to tell you, say it's not bitter at all. It's like almost like a pepper. It has a peppery feeling to it. Oh?
Yes, it does. It does, Priest, but can't eat it. Yes, it's true. Yeah.
It's good for digestion.
Yes, my Lord.
Yes, my
Now
Lord.
we give thanks again for your input.
very good
Give
for
thanks to hear your
digestion.
voice. All blessing, prosperity, my Lord.
Yes, Empress. Give thanks, blessed love. Give thanks for the works, Empress.
Yes,
Sister Maisie.
Yes, my Lord.
Wonderful,
Give thanks,
wonderful. Yeah.
my Lord. Blessed love, my Lord.
Yes, to those who don't know, I is the honorable priest Bud, you know.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks, honorable.
For those who don't know, I
In Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes,
Bless
I.
the love, honorable priest. Bless the majesty.
Bless love to the Queen. Give thanks.
Blessed love.
Pull on, Empress. Pull on. Yes, I. One love, you know.
My Lord. Guidance and protection.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks.
Yes,
Yes,
royal
blessed
family.
love.
Royal family ready.
Yes.
4 batteries and one and I can't have no charger around me, you know. But me
All
give
right.
thanks for the moment still. And me give thanks for the input, you know, and my Lord and Empress, just carry on the works of love. Give thanks for the heart and love one and all.
My
Marcus,
Lord.
Yeah.
last year,
Yeah.
bless you.
Blessed love.
Yes, my Lord. And Daniel, give thanks again for the Empress, you know. I and I sisters who put this little documentary here together about the kidney. And next week we'll be doing something else. As long as we go along, we'll be talking about health and awareness, my Lord. We give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks for the contribution.
Well done, Sister Cindy, Sister Rachel, Sister Deanne, Sister Leanne.
Blessed love to the family. Empress
Blessed
Maria.
love, my Lord.
Give thanks.
Give thanks for the work
Oh,
done.
Empress Maria, let me close out.
Give
Oh,
thanks
stop.
for the presentation as well. You know, you all did a great job, and we look forward to more, you know, positive coming from, you know, the Empress. I mean, the item's still on the reasoning about the restorative justice as well. So give thanks for our contribution, you know, to the program to make it more full and balanced, you know. Yes, I. So, you know, at this time, we'll accept a few closing remarks. You know, the topic for today was restorative or reparative justice for I, the African people, the descendants of those who, you know, were victims of the transatlantic so-called slave trade. Yeah, and you know, what do we want? You know, what is it that we are demanding? In detail, you know, what did they do to us? What do they owe us? Who owes us? All of these things we reasoned about. So, you know, I give thanks for all contributions. Everyone's words was valued. Everyone was on topic and relevant. Give thanks for everyone's presence. You know, give thanks for all those that watch on YouTube and will watch in the future. Hopefully this course, this education will propel us forward and as we agitate. This is our number one cause as a Congress for existence, you know, demanding freedom, redemption, and repatriation, which, you know, could also be defined as restorative or reparative justice, reparations, you know. So yes, this is very, very, very important. And, you know, as Empress Maisie said, hopefully it will go with works. The works will come afterwards. You know, once we learn these things, then, okay, what are we going to do with it? You know, this, I feel we as a study group, we're doing our part, you know, because often I hear it being said that, you know, there's a lot of talk and no works, but this is a work, you know, so give thanks for everyone who contributed to this work. Educating ourselves is to lift our capacity to be able to do, you know, without the education, you know, the agitation could still go on, but would it be agitating for the right thing? Would it be done the right way? Would we have the right case built? You know what I mean? And we need lawyers like Empress Marina and others who are very knowledgeable of the law to take this on that level. There's many levels that this battle has to be fought. There's grassroots level, the people, you know, the poor and have-nots, the ones who these rights are owed to. They need to know so that they can also speak and lift their voice in the cry, as Empress Lily May said, for our rights, you know. So we're doing our part, we're doing a part. This isn't the fullness of our part, but this is definitely a part of the work that has to be done to get what it is that we're looking for, you know, while we are here as a Congress, you know. So give thanks for all contributions to this particular aspect of the work. And, you know, hopefully those who watch will get a full understanding, a fuller understanding on the topic and you know, use it in whatever way they can, whether it be in art or, you know, in organizing and centralizing locally, or taking it to the government, or writing letters, whatever it is that this inspires you to do. Hopefully it inspires you to do something with the information. That's my closing remarks. I'll leave it open, you know, for anyone else who has something to say. And then, you know, as usual, we'll bring it down with a closing prayer.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress.
Yeah, blessed love, Empress.
For life and the mighty life giver, Holy Emmanuel, Selassie, Rastafari.
Yes, Sister Leanne.
Give thanks to the moment of reasoning, Empress, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks to the moment of reasoning. Give thanks to all the give thanks to our loved ones in Rastafari. This is my little contribution for this afternoon, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks. Blessed love.
Blessed. Give thanks for your presence.
Right.
Yeah.
Rastafari.
Let's give thanks, Empress Leanne, for your presence and for your contribution. You know, also from your contribution to the Empress, the health aspect, and also to the restorative justice reasoning the same way.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks, my Lord. You're most graciously welcome, Majesty. My Lord.
Yes, Sister Leanne, blessed love. Yes.
Blessed love, Mama. Blessed love.
Prophet Joseph, you there, my Lord?
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress. Yes, yes, Majesty.
I had to call you up. Come on, my Lord. Closing remarks.
Yes, my Lord. It is the time, my Lord. It is the time for I and I to really organize. You see, I wanted to read a little part of this document here, which is called the Reparations Manifesto by David Commission. I want to read the 12th principle on what he elaborates as the 12 principles of reparations. So I will read them all and then just summarize the 12th one. The first principle, and I see this has been going very in line with what has been recent, so we'll just number them. The validation of our humanity, which we reason same way. The knowledge of our history, that's the second principle. Third principle is the completion of the emancipation process. The fourth principle is the compensation must be proportionate to the crime. The fifth principle says the reparations must produce the just society. The sixth principle is that no one must be left behind. The seventh principle is very important, that Africans must exercise autonomy throughout the process. The eighth principle is that we must repair ourselves. The ninth principle is that self-repair will generate mass support for reparations. The 10th principle is that reparations must be a broad movement. The 11th principle is that the mass of our people must be intimately involved, the grassroots of our people. And the 12th principle is that network and establish a new international legal structure. And here it says, the successful pursuit of reparations will require the establishment of a worldwide network of community, regional and national and international organizations. Indeed, at the grassroots level, the community-based reparation organization must be linked into a national network, while at the level of our African and Caribbean governments, we should establish a transatlantic international network that is preparing the engaging in legal, diplomatic, and political strategies at the international level to achieve reparations. So, yes, my lord, I just wanted to close with that little remark and give thanks, my lord, for everyone taking the time to have this discussion, to have this reasoning where we can, refresh ourselves on this topic to understand what is the capacity that we must build in ourselves to fulfill this work, my Lord and Empress. So give thanks for each and every one and for this study group meeting, my Lord and Empress.
My Lord, glorify. Yes, we all could play some role in it, you know. Maybe not everybody is highly educated like through school and all of that stuff, but everybody, there's a part for everybody to play, even, you know, even the children, everybody has a role to play to agitate, you know. We have lawyers who have to take it on that level, but you have organizers, you also have grassroots people, and the more we know, the better equipped we are to really do it right and get what we really want and what we really need, you know, out of it. Because think about it, if we asked them for money alone and then they came up with some number, then they gave us this money, and then, you know, they say, all right, well, we paid you, so you can't, the case is closed. We gave you justice, but then the money didn't really give us the, like he said, the just society. Then our case would be closed and we wouldn't have gotten what was due to us. So it's very important that we know exactly what it is we're talking about when we say they committed a crime against us and what it is that they owe us and what type of payment we're actually willing to accept, and then say that we close the case. We close the case. We say that justice has been served, you know? Yeah, so blessed love Empress Lily, her battery's going low. You know, give thanks for their presence and, you know, our guidance and protection. And so if no one else, I don't know if anyone else had anything they wanted to say. If not, Priest Dougie, you still there, my Lord? Are you available or gone? I know you had an interview you had to step off for. All right. Well, Prophet Joseph, you mind bringing it forward with a prayer, my Lord? Seal up.
No, my Lord, give thanks for the honors, my Lord, and give thanks for everyone present, and give thanks for the moment our Father sent, our Father sponsored for us to be here. Give thanks for life and the mighty life giver, Holy Manuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, and that standeth in the way of sinners, not seated in the seat of his comfort. but delighteth in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Shall be like a tree that is planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf shall also never wither. Whatsoever he doeth and whatsoever that she doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff with the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in this judgment, and not sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, and the way of the ungodly shall perish with Britain and America. Marcos I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that our Father has sent from Zion above. Give thanks for all things are bright and beautiful, for Jah Rastafari made them all. Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Blessed Lord, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks.
Give thanks, my Lord. So yes, family, this is the African Liberation Network. I'm the host, Prophet Daniel, and we are the Bobo Shanti International Study Group, and we give thanks for your presence, and we give thanks for your listening ear. We hope that you are inspired, to take the word and publish it abroad, make it known, freedom, redemption, repatriation, recompensation now and now. Say the Black I am, Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Our guidance and protection going out and coming in, my Lord and Empress, in these 6 days of labor. Until next time, we're signing off. That's it.
My Lord and Empress, blessed.